Chapter 228. Long Xinyuan had previously thought of roping in Tang Zheng, but when he heard that Tang Zheng was a cultivator, this thought was thrown out of his mind, and even his anger towards Tang Zheng gradually subsided. Although, because of what Tang Zheng had done to Long Tengyu, Long Xinyuan had already listed him as an enemy, but he never thought that he would be a cultivator. Long Xinyuan was stunned for a long time before he regained his senses. He knew how powerful cultivators were, and he also understood that the relationship between the martial sect and cultivators was like fire and water. He did not even dare to offend the martial sect, and was even more afraid of cultivators. This was the attitude of ordinary people towards cultivators, to keep a respectful distance from them. They did not have as deep a foundation as the martial sect, and cultivators were too mysterious. It was said that they had the ability to overturn rivers and seas. Although Tang Zheng was definitely not that capable at the moment, he could not rule out the possibility that there was such a powerful expert behind him. Immediately, Long Xinyuan also understood why Tang Zheng was able to display so many extraordinary aspects at such a young age. Tang Zheng stared at Long Xinyuan. If the other party made a move, he would definitely not sit still and wait for death. Even if he had to risk his life, he would protect Feng Shishir. At most, he would escape into the 10,000 mountains, and it would not be easy for Long Xinyuan to deal with him. Long Xinyuan's expression kept changing, but Long Tengyu could not hold it in any longer and shouted, "Dad, did you hear what I said? They are cultivators. Hurry up and capture them." "Shut up," Long Xinyuan shouted, and Long Tengyu immediately shut up, staring at Tang Zheng hatefully. Tang Zheng was unmoved. He only cared about Long Xinyuan's attitude. "Tang Zheng, you saved Nana and Hongyan. This is a great kindness to the Long family. The Long family knows how to repay this kindness." Long Xinyuan finally spoke. Tang Zheng snorted disdainfully. "Is this how you repay kindness? You actually dare to do bad things to my girlfriend." Long Xinyuan glared fiercely at Long Tengyu. He was disappointed. He took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said, "This matter is indeed my son's fault, but it is an indisputable fact that you wanted to kill him just now. You should know that anyone who wants to kill the Long family will not be forgiven." Tang Zheng snorted in disdain. "Anyone who wants to hurt my family, I will definitely not let them off easily." Long Xinyuan frowned and said, "But because you have done a favor to the Long family, I will not care about the harm you to my son." When Long Tengyu heard this, he shouted unrelentingly, "Dad, how can we not bother with him? He almost killed me." Long Xinyuan turned a deaf ear and continued, "But I didn't expect you to be a cultivator. Cultivators and martial sect are mortal enemies. I think you should be very clear about this. I don't want to be associated with martial sect, and even more so, I don't want to be entangled with cultivators. So, from today onwards, we will write off everything that happened in the past and pretend that nothing happened." Long Xinyuan did not want to bear the infamy of killing his benefactor, nor did he want to offend martial sect and cultivators, so he simply pretended that nothing had happened. He actually made such a decision. Tang Zheng was greatly surprised. He was already prepared to fight to the death. However, this decision was the most beneficial to him. "Is that true?" Long Xinyuan nodded. "Of course. Could it be that the moment I left, you guys sold me out?" Tang Zheng asked vigilantly, his gaze sweeping over Long Tengyu's body. Long Xinyuan was very clear about what Tang Zheng meant, so he said to Long Tengyu solemnly, "Tengyu, from today onwards, keep your mouth shut about today's matter, especially their cultivator identity. If you dare to mention it to outsiders, don't blame me for being impolite." Long Tengyu's heart trembled. He did not understand why his father was so cautious about Tang Zheng. Killing these two people, or capturing them and handing them over to martial sect, wouldn't it be easy? But looking at his father's stern expression, he understood what his father's gaze meant, and that was to not give him a chance to object. Long Tengyu gritted his teeth in hatred, but he had no choice but to nod and agree. "All right, I won't tell anyone." Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. Although he did not believe that Long Tengyu would keep his mouth shut, at least for the time being, he would not reveal this news to the outside world, which was enough. Tang Zheng was confident that he could quickly increase his cultivation, especially after discovering the witch clan. The spirit chi in the 10,000 mountains was abundant, which could allow his cultivation to increase rapidly. But I have a request. From now on, you, Hongyin and Nana are not allowed to come into contact with each other. I don't want anyone in the Long family to have anything to do with you. Long Xinyuan added. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment and said, I can promise you that I will not take the initiative to come into contact with them. His identity as a cultivator was indeed very dangerous. If he did not come into contact with this pair of mother and daughter, it would indeed be beneficial for them. As for the fact that he had promised Mu Hongyin to teach Nana the cultivation method, there was no need to be in a hurry. In any case, she was still young. Then you can leave. Long Xinyuan stepped aside. I'll go back to the lakeside villa to get my luggage and leave. Tang Zheng held Feng Shishi's hand and walked out of the private room. The heaven horse was waiting in the hall, and when it saw the two of them coming out, it immediately went up to them affectionately. Feng Shishi had just recovered from her panic, and when she saw the tall white horse, she was extremely surprised. This is our horse? Tang Zheng gently carried Feng Shishi onto the horse's back, got on the horse, protected Feng Shishi in his arms, and left the scene. Dad, why did you let them go? Long Tengyu held onto his stomach. The pain caused his facial muscles to contort as he asked unwillingly. Long Xinyuan turned around and stared at him. Long Tengyu was shocked. He took a step back and said, Dad, why are you looking at me like that? Pa. A loud slap landed on Long Tengyu's face, causing Long Xinyuan to fly into a rage. You disappointing thing. Do you know that you almost got into big trouble? Long Tengyu sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain, and said with a sullen face, Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I even saw through their cultivator identity. Long Xinyuan said with disappointment, They are cultivators. Do you know who else is behind them? If you provoke them, do you want the Long family to fall into a state of eternal damnation? Long Tengyu was a little stunned, and only after a long while did he say, Aren't cultivators the enemy of martial artists? Moreover, the people from the martial sect have been chasing after cultivators. Humph. Enemy, how many years ago was that? Only a one-track-minded person like the martial organization would keep on chasing and killing cultivators. Even the people from the Li Palace and the Azure Dragon Hall turn a blind eye to cultivators. Does our Long family need to provoke them? Long Tengyu was speechless. It turned out that this matter was not as simple as he had imagined. If Tang Zheng heard this, he would definitely be overjoyed. It turned out that not everyone in this world saw cultivators as a thorn in their side. Only the people from the martial sect would chase after cultivators, which meant that his enemies were not as many as he had imagined. In short, let's pretend that today's matter did not happen. Don't provoke Tang Zheng in the future. Wang Fuchuan betrayed the Long family's interests, and the person behind the scenes is still in the dark. Your recent main focus is to thoroughly investigate this matter for me and find out the mastermind behind it. Long Tengyu was very unwilling, but he had no choice but to accept this result. When Tang Zheng returned to the lakeside villa, Mu Hongyin and Nana were already waiting at the door. Mu Hongyin's expression was very complicated. She had already received a strict order from Long Xinyuan to not have any contact with Tang Zheng in the future, and did not explain the reason. Mu Hongyin was confused. Tang Zheng was such a big help. If he was to rope him in, it would definitely be beneficial to the Long family in the future. But since Long Xinyuan did not explain the reason, she had no choice but to ask Tang Zheng. However, when she heard about what Long Tengyu had done to Feng Shishi, she was immediately shocked and angry. Long Tengyu was actually so crazy. Brother Godly Doctor, you're back. Nana threw herself into Tang Zheng's embrace, hugged his legs with both hands, and shouted with red eyes. Looking at her pitiful appearance, Tang Zheng quickly carried her up. He would not be able to see this girl for a short period of time. Brother Godly Doctor, that day when you and Mother fell off the cliff, you really scared Nana to death. Nana thought that you would never come back. Well, as she spoke, she wiped away her tears. Tang Zheng hurriedly comforted her. Nana, don't cry. Your mother and I can't bear to part with you. How could we not come back? Nana smiled through her tears. Nana is so obedient. She is a good child. You definitely won't abandon Nana. Suddenly, her eyes turned, and her gaze was attracted by the heavenly horse. She excitedly shouted. Wow, horse, what a beautiful horse! With a bell-like laughter, she pounced towards the heavenly horse. Tang Zheng hurriedly stopped her. This beast was too arrogant, so he did not want to send this girl flying with a kick. I want to ride a horse, I want to ride a horse. Nana kept waving her hands and couldn't wait to say. Tang Zheng had no choice but to carry him onto the horse. Nana hugged the horse's back and giggled. Seeing his daughter's happy expression, Mu Hongyan felt bitter in his heart. He would not be able to see Tang Zheng in the future, and Nana would definitely be very sad. Tang Zheng, what exactly happened? Why did father make such a decision? Mu Hongyan could not help but ask. Tang Zheng then told him what had happened, and Mu Hongyan was furious. Long Tongue Yu, I never thought that he would be such a beast with a human face. After saying that, he hurriedly grabbed Fang Shishi's hand. Shishi, luckily you're fine. Otherwise, I would have felt guilty for the rest of my life. Fang Shishi had already regained her composure. Am I not fine now? Besides, this is not your fault. However, they already know our identity as cultivators, so they made this decision. At least this decision is beneficial to both sides for the time being. Tang Zheng said. Mu Hongyan said resentfully. All of this happened because of me. If I hadn't invited you to South Yunnan, then none of this would have happened. Tang Zheng shook his head. I originally wanted to come and see you, and I also came for your husband's magic treasure. Fang Shishi was already clear that Mu Hongyan knew their identity and knew that her husband was also a cultivator. Hearing them mention the magic treasure, she said, Tang Zheng, we can't come here in the future. Last time, you looked for it alone. This time, we'll look for it together for the last time. If we really can't find it, then it means that it's not your fate. Tang Zheng's heart moved. One more person, one more chance, and she was right. If he couldn't find it this time, then it would be very difficult to come to the Long family in the future, and this magic treasure would really be covered in dust forever. Chapter 229. Inside the training room, Tang Zheng, Fang Shishi, and Mu Hongyan searched the room again, but they still found nothing. There were no hidden compartments or secret rooms in the room, so it was very difficult to hide anything. Fang Shishi stood in the middle of the training room, looking at the glass roof above her head. The water was sparkling, reflecting the lights in the room, making it very beautiful. Tang Zheng, did you check the roof? Fang Shishi asked. Roof? Tang Zheng was very puzzled, and Mu Hongyan looked up at the same time. The glass roof was empty, and even if they were standing on the ground, they could still see it clearly. Mu Hongyan said, This roof has not changed much from before. I believe that your husband must have hidden the magic treasure in this house, and you also said that this training room is the most likely place, so it should be here. We have already looked everywhere, but this roof is the only place we haven't looked. Fang Shishi analyzed. Okay, I'll go find a ladder. Tang Zheng was treating a dead horse as a living horse, so he didn't lack this little bit of effort. After a while, he found a ladder and climbed up. The glass roof was very smooth, and Tang Zheng felt it again, but there was no place to hide anything. Tang Zheng, use your qi to sense it, Fang Shishi suggested. Tang Zheng's mind flashed, and a light flashed in his mind. That's right, the magic treasure must be able to sense qi. Why was he so stupid before and didn't think of this move? He simply closed his eyes and used his qi, and his qi spread out from his meridians. In an instant, his qi filled the entire roof. Suddenly, he found a special place. The glass in the middle of the roof had a slight reaction, and when his qi spread out, there was a slight fluctuation. He was happy, knowing that he had found the target, so he followed the feeling and touched that piece of glass. It was very smooth, and he couldn't feel anything with his palm. But the reaction of his qi made him very sure that there was something wrong. Illusion. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and he immediately thought of this magic. Back then, Tian Chanzi had used this magic to create a fake exam ticket for him. That illusion could last for 2 days, but this illusion had obviously lasted for several years. It was obviously a very powerful illusion. In fact, if it were a few years ago, even if Tang Zheng used his Zhanqi to sense it, it would be useless. At that time, the illusion had just been cast and its power was very strong. Now, With the passage of time, the effect of the illusion was weakening, so he could sense it with his Zhan Qi. Then he must also be a first-grade foundation establishment cultivator, because only first-grade foundation establishment cultivators can cultivate illusions. Tang Zheng could not help but sigh. A first-grade foundation establishment stage expert had actually died in the hands of Daoist Tianji. It was truly not easy for him to escape from the hands of Daoist Tianji. Since it was confirmed that it was an illusion, then everything was much simpler. Tian Chanzi had taught him the secrets of illusion, so he silently chanted an incantation in his heart. With a wave of his hand, his Zhan Qi surged, and on the originally empty glass ceiling, an object as thin as a cicada's wing appeared. No wonder he didn't feel anything when he touched it. This thing was so thin, almost as if it was stuck to the glass, so it was hard to feel. He carefully took it down. This thing was the size of a palm, and there was a hole. He instantly thought of the Sumeru bag that Tian Chanzi had mentioned before. This was the Sumeru bag, a profound grade storage magic treasure. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. He had worked so hard, and if not for Fang Shishi's reminder, he would have almost missed this treasure. When he returned to the ground, Fang Shishi and Mu Hongyan coincidentally came over. Looking at the small bag in his hand that was as thin as a cicada's wing, they curiously asked, "What is this thing?" Sumeru bag, a profound grade magic treasure. Fang Shishi looked at this magic treasure with mixed feelings. At that time, her husband was tragically killed because of this magic treasure, so she hated the Sumeru bag even more. If not for it, then this family would not have been torn apart. Fang Shishi had also heard Tian Chanzi talk about the Sumeru bag's function. She was excited and said, "Can this small bag really hold a lot of things? Let's try it and we'll know." Tang Zheng operated his Zhan Qi, and his divine sense immediately drilled into the Sumeru bag. A huge space suddenly appeared in front of him. This space was as big as the villa, and it was completely empty. Tang Zheng's thoughts moved, and he pulled out the War Soul Sword from his waist and aimed it at the Sumeru bag's opening. With a whoosh, the War Soul Sword disappeared and entered the Sumeru bag's space. Fang Shishi and Mu Hongyan were dumbstruck as they looked at this scene. Even Mu Hongyan could not help but exclaim, "This is too amazing." This is not the most amazing thing. If it is an Earth-grade magic treasure Sumeru bag, it can also hold living things, or even people. Tang Zheng recalled Tian Chanzi's introduction, and could not help but say with fascination, "Holding people, then isn't this a moving house? People can still live inside." Mu Hongyan exclaimed, "Yes, but right now I'm just a moving warehouse, but this is enough for me. No matter where I go in the future, I can carry the War Soul Sword with me, and even more things." Tang Zheng said, unable to contain his joy. Now that he was facing more and more dangers, he had to carry the War Soul Sword with him, but many times it was not convenient to carry it. After all, this was modern society, and it was not allowed to run around with a sword in broad daylight. The Sumeru bag just happened to solve this problem. "Sister Mu, thank you for giving this magic treasure to me," Tang Zheng said to Mu Hongyan. Mu Hongyan said indifferently, "This magic treasure is very useful to you, but it is useless to me. Moreover, my husband also met with misfortune because of it, so if I leave it in this house, I will feel uncomfortable." Tang Zheng nodded, indicating that he understood. "After this farewell, the Long family will definitely be on guard against me coming to see you and your mother again. So we don't know when we will be able to meet again. However, don't worry. I promised you that I would teach Nana magic, and I will definitely not forget this matter. Fortunately, she is still young, so there is no need to rush. When the time is right, I will come to find you again." Tang Zheng believed that in a few years, his strength would greatly increase, and even if it was Long Xianyuan, he would not have to be too afraid. Mu Hongyan said in understanding, "I understand. We will wait for you to come back. Then we will take our leave first. There's no need to be in such a hurry. It's already late. Let's rest for the night and leave tomorrow." Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment, then agreed. "Are you going back to the mountains next?" Mu Hongyan asked. "Yes, I promised to help them break the restriction. I'll take advantage of my summer vacation to finish this matter." Tang Zheng had already made plans. "I wish you success." The next morning, Mu Hongyin found a large truck and loaded the heaven horse into it. After all, riding a white horse in the middle of the day was too ostentatious. Furthermore, the matter of the horse race last night had caused an uproar, so the appearance of the white horse would definitely cause a commotion. Therefore, they were prepared to use the truck to bring them to the outskirts and then ride back to the 10,000 mountains. Nana's eyes were red as she held onto Tang Zheng's hand, reluctant to part with him. "Brother Godly Doctor, are you really leaving? Can you stay and accompany Nana?" Her delicate and pitiful appearance could almost melt one's heart. Tang Zheng squatted down, wiped away the tears from the corner of her eyes, and said, "Nana, be good. When you grow up a little, Big Brother will come and see you, okay? I believe that Nana will definitely be even more beautiful at that time." "Woo. But Nana wants to accompany Big Brother. Nana can't bear to part with you." Seeing that, Mu Hongyin could not help but feel a strong sense of sadness in his heart, and his mind could not help but recall the time he spent with Tang Zheng. Without a doubt, this was the most extraordinary time in her life. She had experienced too many things that she had never experienced before. It was like a dream, making her feel like she was addicted to it. How good would it be if she could always live in that kind of fairy tale-like world? As soon as this thought popped out, she was shocked. She glanced at Tang Zheng and quickly shifted her gaze away. "What's wrong with me? How can I have such thoughts?" She was a little flustered as she clutched her chest, trying her best not to show any abnormalities. Tang Zheng comforted her for a long time, but Nana still kept crying. In the end, under her tearful eyes, he and Fang Shishir got into the car. Nana kept waving her small hands. "Brother Godly Doctor, Nana will miss you. You must also miss Nana. Woo-woo." The car started. Tang Zheng was in a very low mood. Fang Shishir snuggled up to him and comforted him. "There will be a day when we meet again in the future. Don't be so sad." Tang Zheng squeezed out a smile, let out a long breath, and said, "I know. As long as I become stronger as soon as possible, this day will come sooner." The car stopped in the suburbs. The two of them changed to heaven horses and galloped towards the 10,000 huge mountains. This was the first time Fang Shishir had seen such a primitive forest scenery. She was extremely excited. She only had a little understanding of the mysterious witch clan from Tang Zheng's words. She had no idea what would happen on this trip, but she was filled with anticipation. This was an adventure that belonged to her and Tang Zheng. The corner of her mouth hooked up into a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. After passing through the swamp and miasma, they finally arrived at the periphery of the witch clan tribe after spending half a day. With a sharp whistle, a few people jumped out from the dense forest. When they saw that it was Tang Zheng, they all bowed respectfully. Lord Envoy has returned." This news was quickly spread back. When the two of them arrived at the entrance of the tribe, hundreds of witch clan people were already there to welcome them. When Mu Hongyin saw the hundreds of witch clan people dressed in simple and unadorned attire, her eyes widened in curiosity, and her heartbeat involuntarily sped up. "Welcome back, Lord Envoy." The elder took the lead and knelt down towards Tang Zheng. The others also kowtowed. "Welcome back, Lord Envoy." Hundreds of people's shouts shook the mountains and wilderness. It was as if a heavy hammer had struck Fang Shishir's heart. Seeing all these people, old and young, respectfully kneel down in front of her husband, she felt as if her heart was being overturned. This was her man. He could make countless people submit to him. Now, there were hundreds of people. She believed that in the future, he would definitely be able to go even higher and make even more people submit to him. Chapter 230. During this time, Tang Zheng went to the sacred ground again and absorbed all of the innate qi for the giant egg. The positions of the 4 stone statues changed once again, and the restrictions were weakened even further. Tang Zheng's confidence doubled, and he continued to work hard to cultivate. But this time he placed his gaze on the chaotic Vajra spell. Since he had decided to temper his body, this cultivation technique was the most suitable. Moreover, the elder had a good understanding of the chaotic Vajra spell, so he could carefully guide Tang Zheng. The chaotic Vajra spell was divided into 5 stages: copper skin, iron bones, steel, diamond, and indestructible. If one reached the indestructible realm, Then their body would be indestructible and indestructible. Tang Zheng used the witch clan's secret medicine, and after a few days, his skin gradually hardened, like a layer of copper skin. Ordinary blades and swords would only cut into his skin a little and would not be able to move an inch. In addition, the innate qi in his body had already reached 8 inches. He was just 2 minutes away from entering the foundation establishment stage and making a qualitative leap. At noon, when he walked out of the cave once again, Fang Shishir, the elder, and Yi Yuan, who were waiting outside, hurriedly went up to welcome him. "Lord Envoy, how is it?" the elder asked anxiously. Plus, Tang Zheng shook his head. "That giant egg is like a bottomless pit. It still doesn't have much of a reaction." He had always been curious about the white light that rose from the giant egg in the mural after it shattered. However, his power was limited, and it would take some time for him to break the giant egg. Sometimes, he had the illusion that he was like an old hen that was hatching chicks, working hard to hatch this giant egg. Boom! All of a sudden, a loud noise interrupted his train of thought. A large patch of trees at the foot of the Holy Land's mountain broke apart. More and more towering trees broke apart, forming a wide road. This road meandered forward, heading straight for the cave. The elder's expression changed. "What's going on?" "Yuan, quickly go and take a look." Yuan jumped and rushed down from the top of the mountain. The rumbling sounds of trees breaking became louder and louder, and the few of them looked down the mountain nervously. "Elder, has something like this ever happened before?" Tang Zheng asked. The elder shook his head. "No, the sacred mountain has always been very quiet. Ordinary animals don't dare to come close. There must be something fishy going on." Everyone's nerves tensed up. Not long after, Yi Yuan returned the way he came from. His face was ashen as he shouted, "Mang Jiao, Lord, Elder, it's Mang Jiao." The elder's expression changed greatly. Why did this beast come to the holy mountain? Wasn't it always in the swamp? Tang Zheng knew the situation was not good, so he asked, "Elder, what is a Mang Jiao?" "It's a huge snake that lives in the swamp all year round. I don't know how long it has lived. Some of our clansmen were eaten by it before. Later on, we organized many people to hunt it down, but it escaped. I didn't expect it to appear again today. This beast is already evolving into a flood dragon. Its strength is extraordinary," the elder explained. Tang Zheng subconsciously thought of the red-chained snake that he had met when he was searching for the heaven-fragrant flower in the ordinary Balance Mountain. That red-chained snake had already gained intelligence and was a demonic beast. Tang Zheng had spent a lot of effort to kill it and consume its niden to raise his cultivation. He really did not expect to meet another demonic beasts in the 10,000 huge mountains. However, from the other party's formation, it was obvious that it was not something a small demonic beasts like the red-chained snake could compare to. "All of you protect me. I need to quickly recover my innate qi." Tang Zheng did not say anything else. He sat down cross-legged and consumed a spirit-gathering pill. He activated the ancient clear heaven scroll, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth quickly gathered towards him. The elder stood in front of Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir and said, "Miss Fang, take good care of Lord Envoy. Yuan and I will deal with this beast." Fang Shishir was a little nervous. She nodded her head and guarded in front of Tang Zheng, not allowing any enemies to approach. The elder and Yi Yuan looked at each other and saw determination in each other's eyes. Back then, the entire clan was unable to do anything to this python, and now, it was not easy for the two of them to stop it. However, for the sake of the envoy's safety, and even more so for the safety of the sacred grounds, they absolutely could not allow this beast to approach. In fact, the elder and Tang Zheng both understood that there must be a reason why the flood dragon, which had never dared to approach the sacred land, suddenly launched an attack. It was probably related to the giant egg or the mysterious restriction. All of this was related to whether or not the witch clan could safely leave the 10,000 huge mountains. Therefore, no matter what, they did not dare to take this risk. They could not turn a blind eye to it and had to keep the python outside the cave. Even if they had to sacrifice themselves, they would not hesitate. Therefore, the elder and Yi Yuan were determined to die. The determination on their faces was not a joke. Boom! A towering tree in front of the cave was cut in half, and a huge creature as thick as a bucket appeared. This was a python that was about 30 meters long. Its entire body was covered in scales, and there was a golden scale on its forehead. This was the mark of the python's transformation into a flood dragon. When a golden horn grew out from this golden scale, it would become a true flood dragon, and its strength would increase greatly. The python flood dragon's upper body stood up, looking down at the crowd like a tiger eyeing its prey. Its pair of eyes were as big as 2 fists, revealing an ominous glint. The 2 poisonous fangs in its mouth emitted a faint cold light, and its scarlet tongue flickered incessantly, the stench assailing their nostrils. This was the first time Feng Shishir had seen such a demonic beast. Her heart could not help but tremble, but she still tried her best to suppress the fear in her heart and stood firm. The elder pointed at the python and roared with a loud voice, "Bastard! What are you doing in my sacred grounds? Why aren't you retreating?" The python dragon was unable to speak. It could only stare at the cave behind the crowd, revealing an undisguised expression of greed. The elder's heart tightened. This beast was indeed here for the cave. It must have been the changes during this period of time that attracted its attention. No matter what, he could not let this beast succeed. Roar! The python dragon let out a strange roar, and its bloody mouth directly bit towards the few of them. Attack! The elder roared. Yi Yuan rushed into the sky and smashed his huge fist directly onto the python dragon's head. Bang! After the python dragon ate the punch, it let out another angry roar, and with a tilt of its neck, it bit towards Yi Yuan. The tip of Yi Yuan's foot tapped on its body, and he flew backwards, hugging onto a big tree to stabilize his body. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the python dragon's huge black tail swept across the sky. Kacha! The big tree was broken by the huge tail, and Yi Yuan and half of the tree trunk fell down together, smashing fiercely onto the ground. However, Yi Yuan was not injured. Seeing the huge tail sweeping over again, Yi Yuan immediately picked up the huge tree trunk and went forward to welcome it. At this time, his innate divine strength came into play. He used the several hundred gene tree trunk as a weapon and fiercely collided with the huge tail, causing a section of the tree trunk to shatter. But Yi Yuan did not stop. He hugged the remaining tree trunk and fiercely smashed it onto the python dragon's body. Oh! The python dragon roared in pain, and its huge body involuntarily rolled down the mountain. However, the python dragon's attack was not limited to that. Its tail wrapped around a few large trees, and it immediately stopped rolling. Please recommend. Chapter 231. Seeing that the python dragon was attacking again, Yi Yuan's expression changed greatly. He threw the elder to the ground and threw a huge fist in the air. Net bang! A fist smashed onto the python dragon's body. The python dragon roared and swept its tail, causing Yi Yuan to fly out. It smashed through countless towering trees before it fell limply from the sky, unable to move anymore. Ah Yuan! The elder cried out involuntarily. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the python dragon. Bastard! I will kill you! The elder rushed out again and soared into the air. He hugged the python dragon's body and climbed straight up, instantly arriving at the top of the python dragon's head. Just now, the python dragon had suffered a great loss at the hands of the elder. Seeing that the other party had climbed onto its head, it immediately rolled down on the ground, hoping to force the elder to retreat. However, the elder held onto his scales tightly and did not let go. The man and the python continued to roll on the mountain peak, breaking countless trees. However, the elder did not seem to be afraid of death and still did not let go. Suddenly, he roared and raised his hand that was grabbing onto the scales. Poochie! A golden light flew up. It was the golden scale armor on the python dragon's forehead. It was actually torn off by the elder. Immediately, the python dragon let out a heart-wrenching scream as it twisted in pain. The elder was finally sent flying by the huge force and landed heavily on the ground. His clothes were torn and many of his muscles were bleeding. He had turned into a bloody man. Bastard! I've broken your golden armor. Let's see how arrogant you can still be. The elder's mouth revealed a smile as he shouted weakly. The python dragon continued to twist and roll. The forest in front of the cave was directly razed to the ground by him. Sand and rocks flew everywhere. It was a complete mess. Suddenly, the python dragon stopped moving. The elder was overjoyed. He knew that the golden scale armor was the python dragon's fatal weakness. Could it be that it was killed just like that? Fang Shirshir was already dumbstruck. This kind of desperate battle had deeply shocked her. Her hand that was holding onto the war's soul sword could not help but tremble. Seeing that the python dragon was motionless, could it be that this beast was dead? She raised her eyebrows and was about to heave a sigh of relief when suddenly, the python dragon leaped into the air and pounced towards her and Tang Zheng. Roar! The sharp roar seemed to be able to tear people's eardrums, but what was even more frightening was the pair of huge eyes and the terrifying bloody mouth. Miss Fang, be careful. Seeing this, the elder wanted to save him, but it was too late. This was because he was seriously injured this time, and his strength was greatly reduced. It was impossible for him to launch an effective attack. Seeing the flood dragon rushing over, Fang Shirshir's frightened heart suddenly calmed down. Her trembling hands also became abnormally steady. She glanced at Tang Zheng, whose eyes were tightly shut, from the corner of her eyes. She clenched her teeth. She couldn't retreat. If she retreated, her beloved would fall into eternal damnation. In the past, it was always Tang Zheng who protected her. Now, it was her turn to protect Tang Zheng. With a shout, War Soul Sword fiercely swung out. Whoosh! The War Soul Sword that was suffused with a black light streaked across the sky and slashed onto the black scale armor. Sparks flew in all directions, but it was actually unable to injure it. The flood dragon's bloody mouth fell down, as if it wanted to swallow Fang Shirshir whole. Die! Fang Shirshir raised her sword and thrust it forward. The War Soul Sword shone with a black light, and the flood dragon seemed to have felt the power of the War Soul Sword. It tilted its head, causing the War Soul Sword to pierce empty air. Whoosh! Suddenly, a stinky green mist sprayed out from the flood dragon's mouth, pouncing towards Fang Shirshir. Fang Shirshir instinctively wanted to hold her breath, but it was already too late. She had already inhaled a few wisps of green mist, and her brain immediately became dizzy. This green mist was poisonous. Fang Shirshir was overwhelmed with shock. She wanted to raise her War Soul Sword and stab at the flood dragon, but found that her entire body was weak and powerless, and she couldn't help but fall down. All the threats had been removed, and the flood dragon's target had changed to Tang Zheng. This was because it felt threatened by Tang Zheng. Its bloody mouth bit down once again, as if it wanted to bite off Tang Zheng's head in one bite. No! Fang Shirshir shouted, but she was powerless and had no way to resist. The elder also shouted from afar, "Bastard! You are not allowed to harm Lord Envoy." Tang Zheng was the hope of the witch clan. If Tang Zheng died, then the witch clan would be trapped here for generations to come. The elder was powerless, his face ashen. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, and countless tiny red lights rose from the soil, rocks, trees, and grass all over the mountain, and then flew towards Tang Zheng, drilling into his skin. In that moment, Tang Zheng's entire body shone with a red light. The flood dragon's eyes revealed doubt and shock, but it did not stop attacking, and was about to bite off Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng's eyes suddenly opened. A red light flashed in his eyes, and he punched out with both fists. Boom! Boom! The flood dragon's head caved in from the two punches, and its huge body tumbled backwards. Tang Zheng stood up, his eyes bright and full of expression. An indescribable pressure spread out. His aura had undergone an earth-shattering change. Just now, he had used the spirit-gathering pill in a hurry, but he discovered that the spirit energy in the sacred ground was even more abundant. Especially the last bit of red light that he had absorbed, there seemed to be a strange power within it, causing his genuine chi to soar, instantly breaking through the threshold and reaching the first stage of the Foundation Establishment stage. The genuine chi in his body had also undergone an earth-shattering change. Originally, the genuine chi was in a gaseous state, flowing through his meridians, but now, the genuine chi was transforming from a gaseous state to a liquid state, and the genuine qi in the 9 main meridians was suddenly compressed, once again becoming an inch, but it was even more condensed. Although the amount of genuine qi in the 9 main meridians seemed to have decreased, there was no doubt that the power had increased by several times. This was the extraordinary part of the first stage of the foundation establishment stage. Tang Jing immediately supported Fang Shishir to sit against the mountain wall. Fang Shishir said weakly, "Tang Jing, I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you well." Tang Jing forced out a smile and said, "Silly girl, you have already protected me well. Now it's my turn to protect you. Rest first. Wait for me to kill this beast." He raised the War Soul Sword and walked towards the Flood Dragon step by step. The War Soul Sword felt its master's anger and fighting spirit and excitedly cried out. He glanced at the elder who was lying in the distance, but did not see any trace of Yi Yuan. The elder's originally despairing heart was overjoyed when he saw that Tang Jing had recovered his vision. He used all his strength to shout, "Lord Envoy, it's great that you're fine." Tang Jing nodded at him, then locked his gaze onto the Flood Dragon. The Flood Dragon's eyes released a cold light, and blood flowed out from the wound on its forehead, covering its triangular head, making it look even more terrifying. Roar! The Flood Dragon roared, its huge tail sweeping across the air like a thunderbolt. Tang Jing also made his move, the War Soul Sword blazing with a black light. Please recommend. Chapter 232. The Flood Dragon let out a sharp scream and started to twist crazily, using its head to hit the ground. However, Tang Jing held onto the sword hilt tightly, allowing the sharp sword to completely sink into it. Please add, the two pairs of eyes were so close that they could see the burst of light in each other's eyes. However, the Flood Dragon was filled with the unwillingness of the dying Urza, while Tang Jing was filled with an irresistible killing intent. Finally, the Flood Dragon's screams gradually subsided. Its pupils began to dilate as its life force slowly drained away. With a boom, the Flood Dragon fell limply to the ground, completely dead. Tang Jing pulled out his War Soul Sword and walked towards the elder. "Elder, how are your injuries?" The elder squeezed out a smile with difficulty. "We won't die, Lord Envoy. We didn't manage to protect you well. We deserve to die 10,000 times. Tang Jing immediately stopped him. "Elder, I should be the one saying that. I am your envoy, yet I was unable to protect you. It is my dereliction of duty to let you take the risk." The elder's eyes were filled with emotion. "I'll go take a look at Yi Yuan first." Tang Jing walked down the mountain path and finally found Yi Yuan. He was unconscious. Tang Jing checked and saw that his muscles and bones were injured, but it was not life-threatening. It was already not easy to survive the battle with the Flood Dragon. The Witch Clan's resistance to attacks was indeed strong. After waking Yi Yuan up, the two of them returned to the entrance of the cave, only to discover that Fang Shishir had already fainted, and her face was gradually covered in a layer of green. The elder turned pale with fright. "Lord Envoy, Miss Fang was poisoned by the snake venom just now. Hurry up and give her the medicine." As he spoke, he took out a porcelain bottle from his bosom. Tang Jing was shocked. He was recovering his power earlier and did not know that she had been poisoned by the snake venom. He did not dare delay and immediately fed her a pill. The green color on her face had not completely faded, but it was controlled and did not spread to other places. In the end, it gathered on her forehead and formed a small dot. Tang Jing knew that something was wrong and hurriedly asked, "Elder, her snake venom does not seem to have been completely removed." The elder was bewildered. After observing for a long time, he said, "Yes, this Flood Dragon's poison is many times more potent than ordinary snake venom. My pill is effective against ordinary snake venom, but it can't completely remove the Flood Dragon's poison. Then what should we do? Will she be in danger?" Tang Jing turned pale with fright. He would rather be poisoned himself than let Fang Shishir be poisoned, let alone if anything happened to her. "Lord Envoy, don't worry. The poison in her body is temporarily under control. When we return, I will carefully look for a way to detoxify it." The elder said. Tang Jing breathed a sigh of relief for the time being, but he hated that Flood Dragon to the core. Fang Shishir slowly woke up and saw Tang Zhang's ashen face. She hurriedly asked, "What happened? Where's that Meng Jiao?" Before Tang Zhang had killed the Meng Jiao, she had fainted due to the poison. Tang Zhang quickly hugged her tightly and comforted her. "Don't worry, I've already killed that beast." Fang Shishir revealed an expression of relief. "That's good. It's too powerful. I'm not its match. Don't talk for now. Rest well." Fang Shishir supported his arm and stood up, revealing a smile. "Don't think of me as so weak. I'm fine." Seeing that she was really fine, Tang Zhang was slightly relieved. However, when he saw the green color on her forehead, his heart could not completely relax. "Lord Envoy, this beast is strange. Do you think it was attracted by the things in the cave?" The elder asked worriedly. Tang Zhang glanced at the cave and said with a frown, "There is a high chance that it is that huge egg. That is definitely not an ordinary thing. For the python dragon to be so impatient to obtain something, it must be a treasure." The elder said, "That's for sure. After all, this is the holy land of my witch clan, and the things inside are sacred objects of the witch clan. Of course they are treasures, but this holy land has existed for who knows how many years. Why didn't that Meng Jiao come to the holy land before, but now?" This was the same question that troubled the few of them. They looked at each other in dismay, and finally cast their gazes towards Tang Zhang. Tang Zhang thought for a long time, then asked, "Elder, why weren't there any animals on this mountain before?" According to the ancestors of the witch clan, there are also restrictions in the sacred grounds, so the fierce birds and beasts do not dare to approach. But this time, the Meng Jiao came up the mountain. Could it be that this restriction has also weakened? Tang Zhang guessed. The elder thought for a moment, then nodded. "There is indeed such a possibility. Sir, you have weakened the restrictions on the witch clan in the 10,000 mountains, so the restrictions on the sacred grounds must have also been weakened. That's why this beast dared to trespass into the sacred grounds. That means the sacred grounds are no longer safe. There will be other beasts attacking in the future." Hearing that, the elder's expression changed greatly. He looked at the cave and said worriedly, "Then what should we do? The sacred objects of the witch clan are definitely not allowed to be touched by these beasts. Furthermore, the sacred objects are related to the fate of the witch clan, so they are definitely not allowed to be lost. Elder, when you go back, send your clansmen to patrol the sacred grounds. I'll guard this place first." Tang Zhang sighed and said, "That's the only way. Thank you for your hard work, sir." "I'll stay behind to accompany the envoy," Yi Yuan said. The elder nodded and went down the mountain alone. When he passed by the python flood dragon's corpse, he stopped and said, "Sir Envoy, this python flood dragon's entire body is a treasure. It cannot be wasted, especially the inner core in its stomach. It is greatly beneficial to cultivation." Tang Zhang thought of the red chain snake's inner core and nodded his head to show that he understood. Sure. Sit down and rest first. I'll take this python flood dragon's inner core." Fang Shishir was eager to give it a try. "I'll go with you. I've never seen an inner core before." This python flood dragon is a demonic beast. As long as it is a demonic beast, it will have an inner core. The inner core contains the spirit energy of heaven and earth, and is also the essence of the demonic beast. After consuming it, one's cultivation will increase greatly. Tang Zhang said. Yi Yuan also nodded his head in agreement. However, this demonic beast's inner core is only useful to cultivators, because a normal person's body would not be able to withstand so much energy. Cultivators can circulate their energy and refine it. Tang Zhang looked at Yi Yuan with admiration. Although he was not able to cultivate yet, he knew a lot. Yi Yuan understood the look in his eyes, scratched his head and said, "This was all taught to us by the elders. The elders are the ones who understand the most in our witch clan. You're injured, so you should rest well," Tang Zhang warned. Yi Yuan shook his head. "Sir Envoy, I don't know how many times I've been injured while hunting. Although it's a little heavier this time, it won't take my life. When the elders bring back the medicine to treat me, it won't be a big problem." Tang Zhang did not try to persuade him anymore. The few of them arrived in front of the python flood dragon's corpse. Its body, which was over 10 feet long, meandered through the forest. If an ordinary person were to see such a huge monster, they would probably be so scared that they wouldn't dare to move. Only this group of fierce people would dare to fight against it so bravely. Sir Envoy, let me do this kind of work. Yi Yuan volunteered. Tang Zheng shook his head. Its scales are incomparably hard. Ordinary weapons would not be able to harm it in the slightest. Even if it is my War Soul sword, if I do not activate my innate qi, I will not be able to harm it, so let me do it. Tang Zheng activated his innate qi, and the War Soul sword glowed with a black light. With a few slashes, the python flood dragon's stomach was cut open. The scales of the python flood dragon were as hard as iron, but the flesh inside was very fresh and tender. Yi Yuan said, "The entire body of the python flood dragon is a treasure. Its scales can be used as armor, and its meat contains more spirituality than the meat of ordinary animals. It is also a good thing to refine one's muscles and bones." Back then, when it ate our clansmen, we gathered the power of our entire clan to kill it and use its flesh to help our clansmen refine their muscles and bones. Now, Sir Envoy has finally helped us achieve this wish. Oh, the python flood dragon actually has so many benefits. Tang Zheng's heart moved. Then are there any other demonic beasts in the 10,000 huge mountains? Tang Zheng's strength had increased greatly. If he could hunt demonic beasts and obtain enough demonic beasts' inner cores, then his and Fang Shishi's power would increase by leaps and bounds. Yi Yuan shook his head regretfully. There are still a lot of ordinary beasts in this mountain, but a demonic beast like this python flood dragon that has already gained intelligence is very rare. Suddenly, he paused for a moment and said hesitantly, "But I've heard the elders mention a place before. It's a forbidden area at the westernmost part of the 10,000 huge mountains." Tang Zheng was overjoyed and asked, "Then do you know the specific situation of that forbidden area?" Yi Yuan shook his head. "Our clansmen never go to that place, but the elders should know a lot about it." Tang Zheng made up his mind that he would definitely ask the elders about this place later. "Tang Zheng, look at that shiny thing. Isn't that the Niden?" Suddenly, Fang Shishi pointed to a sparkling and translucent thing the size of a baby's fist in the python flood dragon's abdomen. Tang Zheng and Yi Yuan looked over at the same time. If this wasn't an inner core, then what was it? Back then, the red chain snake's inner core that Tang Zheng had consumed was only the size of a fingernail, but this inner core was many times larger than that one, so the energy contained within could not be compared. Tang Zheng took it out and placed it in his palm. The inner core was sparkling and translucent, like a huge pearl. This was the first time Yi Yuan and Fang Shishi had seen this thing, and both of them opened their eyes wide at the same time, like two curious babies. "Shishi, hurry up and consume this inner core. It will help your cultivation," Tang Zheng said. Fang Shishi pouted and shook her head. "I don't want it. You were the one who killed the python flood dragon. Moreover, you need to raise your strength even more. My cultivation has just broken through, and I'm now at the first stage of the foundation establishment stage. If I rashly consume this inner core before I can consolidate it, it won't be of much benefit to you, so it's most suitable for you to consume it. In the future, you will also face danger alone, so you need to increase your strength as soon as possible." After the summer vacation, Fang Shishi would be going abroad. Without Tang Zheng by her side, Fang Shishi could only rely on herself, so he had to do his best to make her stronger. However, there was one thing he was lying about, and that was that it was not impossible for him to consume the inner core right now, but he could only use this excuse to persuade Fang Shishi to consume it. Otherwise, how could a stubborn girl bear to consume such a treasure? Fang Shishi did not suspect anything and excitedly accepted the Niden. She opened her mouth wide and swallowed the Niden. Immediately, countless amounts of energy entered her 8 extraordinary meridians. "Hurry up and refine this energy," Tang Zheng warned. Fang Shishi immediately sat down cross-legged and activated the cloud water art. The python flood dragon's energy was slowly refined by her, and her innate qi rapidly increased. Chapter 233. During this period of time, Fang Shishi had used the spirit gathering pill to absorb the spirit qi of heaven and earth. She had already accumulated a lot of innate qi, and the innate qi in her 8 main meridians had already increased to 3. 6 inches. Now that he had obtained the flood dragon's inner core, his innate chi had increased with a whoosh. The flood dragon's inner core had a yin attribute and was extremely compatible with Feng Shishi's purine body. A few hours later, when she had completely refined the inner core, her cultivation level had skyrocketed to the 5th grade of the chi refining stage. Feng Shishi opened her eyes, which were overflowing with color. She could not hide her joy and impatiently said, "Tang Zheng, my cultivation has increased again. I have reached the 5th grade of the chi refining stage." Tang Zheng smiled and patted her shoulder. "Congratulations." But when his gaze swept across her forehead, that bit of green was still there, causing his heart to skip a beat. Her cultivation had increased by so much, yet she still had not refined the flood dragon's poison. It seemed that the poison was really strong. Yuan looked at her enviously, not knowing when he would be able to cultivate. Actually, speaking of which, Yuan's fighting strength was already extremely strong. But this was because of the witch clan's own potential as well as their years of experience fighting with ferocious beasts in the forest. He did not have any innate chi in his body, but with the support of his innate chi, the power of the witch clan would explode with a resplendent light. 5. The sky had already darkened, and the 3 of them were surrounding the bonfire. Yi Yuan was focused on roasting the meat, which was of course the meat of the flood dragon. The meat was delicious, and it emitted a unique fragrance of roasted meat. When the roasted meat entered his mouth, it was fragrant and soft. Tang Zheng felt that it was much more delicious than the pork and beef he had eaten before. Furthermore, he could feel that when the roasted meat entered his stomach, the spirit energy emitted by the roasted meat was absorbed by his body. No wonder the witch clan wanted to use the flesh of the flood dragon to temper their bodies. In the middle of the night, the elder brought more than 100 clansmen to the sacred ground. They set up camp at the foot of the mountain and sent out a few teams to patrol the area. That night, no more beasts came to harass them. After everyone had gone to bed, Tang Zheng began to cultivate. Since the spirit chi in the Holy Land was more abundant, he certainly would not let go of this heaven-sent opportunity. In the darkness of the night, specks of red light were constantly being absorbed into his body. When the sun rose, everyone discovered a shocking scene. The soil and trees within 50 feet of Tang Zheng had all turned from red to green. Tang Zheng was also shocked. Could it be that it was because he had absorbed the red light? For the time being, he couldn't figure out the reason, and since he couldn't leave the Holy Land, he might as well cultivate while letting the giant egg absorb his true chi. This time, after his power had greatly increased, his true chi had undergone a qualitative change. After the huge egg absorbed the true chi, it also underwent a change. The mysterious patterns on the surface of the giant egg began to crack, forming small cracks. It was as if the giant egg was about to break out of its shell. When the elder heard the news, he was shocked and overjoyed. He vowed that the day when the restriction would be broken was not far away, and the witch clan would finally regain their freedom. Immediately, the enthusiasm of the witch clan rose to an unprecedented level. They patrolled even more attentively, and the surroundings of the sacred ground had indeed undergone an unprecedented change. The sacred ground that had been quiet for countless years had become extremely lively. In the past few days, fierce beasts had continuously attacked the sacred ground, but they were not demonic beasts. They were all blocked by the witch clan, and the elders had sent many people to protect the sacred ground. Tang Zheng took advantage of the time to ask about the forbidden area. The elder's expression was very serious, saying that the forbidden area was the most dangerous place in the 10,000 huge mountains, and there were indeed many demonic beasts there. According to the legends of the witch clan's ancestors, a very ancient great figure was buried in the forbidden area, and those demonic beasts were guarding his coffin. Even when cultivators were prevalent many years ago, that place was still an extremely dangerous place. The ancestors of the witch clan warned their descendants not to set foot in it. When the elder heard that Tang Zheng wanted to go to the forbidden grounds, he immediately dissuaded him and complained to Yi Yuan endlessly. How could he tell Lord Envoy about such a dangerous place? What if Lord Envoy was on a whim and something happened to him? Hearing that the forbidden area was so dangerous, Tang Zheng was a little hesitant. However, the most important thing right now was to break the restriction. so there was no need to rush. However, the snake poison in Fang Shishi's body had not been cured yet. The elder had thought of many ways, but could only temporarily control the poison. Every time Tang Zheng looked at the green spot on her forehead, his heart would feel as if it had been pierced by a needle. Fang Shishi, on the other hand, did not mind at all. She enjoyed the days she spent with him. Tang Zheng once again came to the stone hall. The temperature was still very high, but Tang Zheng was not as uncomfortable as before. Instead, he enjoyed the high temperature. When his hands covered the giant egg, his true qi was absorbed by the egg like a tide. His expression was very serene, and he didn't panic like the first time. The patterns on the giant egg glowed brightly, and the cracks gradually expanded. When Tang Zheng's zhenqi was completely absorbed, the expected repulsive force did not appear. The light of the patterns grew brighter and brighter, and the giant egg slowly rose into the air, revealing its full appearance from the boiling magma. Tang Zheng had used up all his zhenqi and was already exhausted. When the giant egg rose into the air, he was originally standing upside down. He accidentally lost his balance and fell straight into the magma. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright and screamed subconsciously, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as he fell into the magma. But in this critical moment, he still maintained a trace of calmness. He took out the War Soul Sword from his samurai pouch, and the yin qi on the War Soul Sword instantly covered his entire body. Plop! A large amount of magma splashed out, and Tang Zheng was immediately wrapped up by the rolling magma. His entire body was covered in the fiery red magma, and the bone-melting heat immediately drilled into his 8 meridians from the surface of his body. Immediately, screams resounded throughout the stone hall. Tang Zheng had never experienced this kind of feeling before. The surging heat seemed to want to melt him, and the surface of his skin became hot and blood-red. If it wasn't for the yin qi on the War Soul Sword protecting him, he would have died immediately and been melted by the magma. However, it was obvious that the yin qi wouldn't be able to hold on for too long, and he had no way of swimming to the shore in the magma. He could only jump up and down to prevent himself from sinking to the bottom of the pool and suffocating to death. At this moment, the giant egg had already risen above the pool. The light became more and more intense, almost making it hard for people to open their eyes. The patterns were spinning rapidly, and the cracks were gradually deepening. Tang Zheng wasn't in the mood to pay attention to the giant egg because he was already on the brink of death. The pure yang energy in his body had also been detonated by the heat. It was simply an internal and external problem. In his dantian, the remaining pure yin energy began to take effect. After a while, it was completely neutralized by the pure yang energy. Finally, it was able to suppress the pure yang energy, allowing him to avoid the danger of his body exploding. However, the crux of the matter was that the magma had already broken through the defense of the yin qi, causing the War Soul Sword to become restless. Its yin qi was no longer enough to contend against the rolling magma. All of a sudden, Tang Zheng let out a heart-wrenching scream. The yin energy finally disintegrated, and his body came into direct contact with the magma. Although he had cultivated the chaotic Vajra spell, he had not even reached the first level of the copper skin realm. How could his physical body resist this lava? Tang Zheng could clearly see that his skin had already melted, and his blood vessels were exposed. A large amount of blood flowed into the pool and merged with the magma. My life is over. Tang Zheng subconsciously glanced at the giant egg. All of this was caused by this guy. Damn it. What exactly are you? I worked so hard to let you absorb the innate qi, and this is how you repay me? A white light suddenly appeared in the red light around the giant egg. This white light was incomparably resplendent and instantly covered the red light. It even caused the fiery red magma to reveal a trace of white light. Tang Zheng only had time to see this white light before his consciousness became blurry and he immediately fainted. The patterns on the giant egg also rose into the air and shot straight towards Tang Zheng's forehead. They entered the middle of his forehead and rapidly rotated. In an instant, the light covered Tang Zheng's entire body. Tang Zheng's skin and muscles had almost completely melted, and one could even see his internal organs beating. Seeing that the magma was about to melt his internal organs, at this time, The ray of light immediately stopped the magma from harming him. From all directions, streams of red energy converged towards Tang Zheng from the magma. Under the effect of the ray of light, they were quickly absorbed into Tang Zheng's body. The skin and muscles that had already melted actually grew back bit by bit. His body was being remodeled. If Tang Zheng could see this scene, he would probably faint from shock again. At this moment, the chaotic Vajra spell in his body started to circulate on its own, seeping into his newly grown skin and muscles. The new skin glowed with a red light and was indestructible. He had actually reached the first level of the chaotic Vajra spell, the Copper Skin Realm. Furthermore, his Copper Skin Realm was even more powerful than the one obtained by cultivating the chaotic Vajra spell according to the rules. This was because he had been tempered and remodeled by the magma. Probably from ancient times until now, no one who cultivated the chaotic Vajra spell had ever been like him, who had almost completely melted his body and then remodeled it. This was because no one else had the same fortuitous encounter as him. The power of the light that enveloped him was extraordinary, and it was not something that a single person could obtain. After an unknown period of time, Tang Zheng's flesh was newly molded, becoming completely naked, and the red light on his skin gradually faded away. This time, his skin was no longer snow white, but bronze. It was a true bronze color, even more perfect and flawless than the ones obtained from sunbathing. The light wrapped around him as he slowly rose from the magma. He was like a sleeping baby, his face finally no longer showing signs of pain and struggle. He laid flat in the air, and then slowly flew towards the shore. When he landed on the shore, the light disappeared, and the mysterious pattern on his forehead also entered his skin, disappearing bit by bit until there was no trace of it at all. As for the giant egg above the pool, it was already completely enveloped by the white light. With a cracking sound, the white light suddenly expanded, filling every inch of space in the stone hall. A voice rang out from the middle of the white light. Chapter 234. This sound was a cry. It was clear, ethereal, and very penetrating. The white light gradually disappeared, and a small white thing floated in the air. It was covered in white fur, like a puppy. It was only 30 centimeters long, and it had a pair of big round eyes that were exceptionally bright. Its eyeballs were very strange. They were fiery red, like two balls of burning flames. It slowly fell into the magma, but it was not damaged in the slightest. Even its hair was not melted by the magma. Instead, it was like a child playing in the water, splashing out streams of hot magma. Suddenly, it stopped and lazily laid on the magma. It seemed to be tired from playing. It opened its pink little mouth and drank the magma. The lava that was strong enough to melt steel was drunk into its stomach, just like that. It had a look of enjoyment on its face, and it didn't stop. The huge pool of lava was emptied in just a short while, and its stomach became round and round. It climbed out of the pool, and its two front paws were like two human hands. It hugged its round stomach, and its eyes were full of satisfaction. It tilted its head and saw Tang Zheng. It directly climbed over. Seeing that Tang Zheng was unconscious, it quickly patted Tang Zheng's head with its little paws. Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes and found that there was a white ball in front of him. He subconsciously reached out and grabbed it. That furry little paw immediately fell into Tang Zheng's palm. Tang Zheng froze for a moment. What is this thing? A puppy. His brain was a little short-circuited. Why would a puppy appear in this cave? However, in an instant, another matter firmly occupied his mind. He remembered that he fell into the magma, and his body was almost completely melted. But now, his whole body was intact. What is going on? He subconsciously looked at the pool and could not help but exclaim, "Ah, where is the magma? Why is it gone?" There was nothing in the pool, only the bare bottom. The magma had disappeared without a trace. His brain could not help but short-circuited. Everything was too strange. Creak, creak. Suddenly, the little fellow barked, pulling Tang Zheng back to reality. He found that he was still holding the puppy, and it was staring at him with its two fiery red eyes. "Where are you from?" Tang Zheng let go of his hand and asked. Creak, creak. The little fellow barked twice, as if answering his question, but Tang Zheng was at a loss. How could he understand? Seeing that Tang Zheng was indifferent, the little guy helplessly cried out twice and jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder. Before Tang Zheng could react, he found that there was a small thing on his shoulder. So fast, Tang Zheng only saw a white shadow flash in front of him. Its speed was unparalleled. His heart skipped a beat. This little guy was not an ordinary puppy. He still defined it as a puppy. It was impossible for a puppy to suddenly appear in this stone hall, and it was even more impossible for it to appear out of thin air. There was only one possibility. It had hatched from that huge egg. Although it was too strange for a puppy to hatch from an egg, Tang Zheng had even seen his own body being reconstructed, so it was not that hard to accept. Then this little guy must be extraordinary. It was actually related to the restrictions of the witch clan. Now that the giant egg had shattered, he did not know how the restrictions were. He couldn't wait to walk out, but the small family hugged his head tightly, not letting him fall. He stretched his neck and looked around curiously. Just as he reached the entrance of the cave, Tang Zheng heard a series of earth-shattering sounds. A gust of wind blew in from the entrance of the cave, causing him to stagger and almost fall to the ground. His heart trembled. Could it be that another demonic beast was attacking? Thus, he quickly walked out of the cave. He saw that the sky was dark, as if a large dark cloud was covering the sky. Of course, this was not a dark cloud, but a pair of huge wings. These two wings were each more than 10 meters wide, covering the sky and covering the sun. However, Tang Zheng still recognized this colossus at first glance, an eagle. However, this was an extremely large eagle, and without a doubt, this eagle was a demonic beast. The eagle demon flapped its wings, causing a strong wind to blow, causing sand and rocks to fly everywhere, causing the witch clan members to sway. Then, the eagle demon swooped down and grabbed a person with its huge claws. So. The spears in the hands of the witch clan members were all thrown into the sky. The eagle demon soared into the sky, causing the spears to miss, and then released its claws. The person who was clawed fell from the sky and was about to fall to the ground. Seeing that, Tang Zheng tiptoed and rushed towards the person, catching him. That person was so scared that his face turned pale. Seeing that he had been saved, he was extremely grateful. "Thank you, Lord Envoy." Tang Zheng patted him on the shoulder. The elder had already come forward to welcome him, and said nervously and pleasantly surprised, "Lord Envoy, the restriction has been broken." Tang Zheng was overjoyed. When the huge egg shattered, the restriction was automatically removed. It seemed that his original guess was not wrong. What is this? An eagle demon flew in from the west just now. It must have come for the sacred object in the cave and was temporarily stopped by us. This eagle demon is very powerful. Many of us are injured. Tang Zheng said with a dark face. Have you seen it before? No, this eagle demon's strength is not inferior to the python dragon from a few days ago. It is extremely powerful. Lord Envoy has used up all of his innate chi. You rest first. We will deal with him, the elder advised. How could Tang Zheng just sit back and watch? Furthermore, when he woke up just now, he discovered that his innate chi had actually recovered to its peak state, so there was no doubt about his fighting strength. Tang Zheng unquestionably held onto the war soul sword and stood at the front of the crowd, staring at the eagle demon that was circling in the sky like a tiger eyeing its prey. The eagle demon also saw Tang Zheng, but in the end, its gaze landed on the little fellow. The eagle's eyes suddenly constricted, and it began to cry out. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, the little guy stood up on Tang Zheng's shoulder and bared its fangs at the eagle demon in the sky, not afraid at all. When the eagle demon heard the little fellow's angry cries, its pupils suddenly constricted. It actually rose a little further, as if it was afraid of the little fellow. The elder's gaze was immediately attracted to the little fellow, and he hurriedly asked, Lord Envoy, what is this? Tang Zheng shook his head. I don't know what it is exactly, but I suspect that it hatched from that huge egg. The elder was immediately dumbstruck. He stared straight at the little fellow and said with incomparable excitement, if it was hatched from the sacred object, then it would be a holy beast. Tang Zheng was not in the mood to care about any holy beast for the time being. The most important thing was to deal with this eagle demon. Little guy, get off my shoulder first. I'll deal with this demonic beasts, otherwise, it won't be good if it hurts you later. Tang Zheng patted its little head and said. The little guy squeaked twice, expressing its protest towards Tang Zheng, but it did not get off his shoulder. Tang Zheng was helpless and could not care less about it. With a tap of his foot, he climbed up a towering tree, and then, as if he was walking on flat ground, he started to walk on the tree trunk and quickly rose up. In an instant, he was dozens of meters in the air, and the eagle demon was also circling at this height. Tang Zheng growled. He leaped up, and the war soul sword slashed towards the eagle demon. The eagle demon let out a sharp cry, and its sharp claws immediately grabbed towards the war soul sword. With a ding-dang sound, sparks flew in all directions. The war soul sword actually did not injure the eagle demon's claws. Tang Zheng's head thumped. This eagle demon was indeed much stronger than the python dragon. The war soul sword was actually unable to injure it. Whoosh whoosh. With a flap of his wings, a gust of wind blew. Tang Zheng was in the air, flying straight into the distance. Zhizhi. Suddenly, the little guy cried out angrily and opened its mouth. Seeing that, the eagle demon immediately retreated. Whoosh! A ray of flame shot out from the little guy's mouth. Although the two of them were separated by more than 10 meters, the flame instantly rushed over this distance and arrived in front of the eagle demon, igniting its feathers. The eagle demon let out a sharp scream, its eyes filled with fear. It glared at the little guy in anger and unwillingness, but the little guy waved its little claws and opened its mouth, as if it was going to spit fire again. The eagle demon was so scared that it immediately retreated, bringing with it a cloud of black smoke and flames as it rose into the sky, quickly escaping. This scene caused everyone to be dumbstruck. This little guy actually injured the eagle demon and even forced it to flee for its life. This showed how powerful it was. When Tang Zheng landed on the ground, he felt pairs of burning gazes focused on the little thing. Even he couldn't help but take the little thing off his shoulder and place it in his palm. The little guy opened its mouth again, aiming at Tang Zheng's palm. Tang Zheng was shocked, afraid that his palm would immediately turn into roasted pig trotters. However, it was obvious that his worries were unnecessary. The little guy did not spit out fire again. Instead, it stuck out its tongue and licked Tang Zheng's palm again and again, looking very intimate. The others surrounded them and looked at the little guy curiously. Fang Shishir could not help but exclaim, "What a cute puppy!" However, he immediately realized that this was definitely not a puppy. A puppy could not spit fire, and it could not force such a powerful eagle demon to retreat. Tang Zheng, what is it? Fang Shishir asked. Tang Zheng shook his head and laughed bitterly. I don't know either. As he spoke, he looked at the elder. The elder also had a difficult expression and said, I don't know what it is either, but there is no doubt that it is the holy beast of my witch clan. When the little guy heard the two words, holy beast, it nodded its head, as if saying that it was the holy beast. Then, it looked at Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir complacently, as if it was very dissatisfied with defining it as a puppy. Tang Zheng looked at its charmingly naive appearance and could not help but laugh. Are you proud of saying that you are a holy beast? I think you really are more like a puppy. The little guy squeaked and protested twice, lying on Tang Zheng's palm, feeling wronged. Suddenly, its ears stood up, and it looked into the distance vigilantly. Seeing this, everyone's heart trembled, and they all followed its gaze, only to see a rumbling sound coming from the west, as if many things were heading towards the Holy Land. Chapter 235. Everyone's expressions changed drastically as they listened to the rumbling sounds from the west that were getting closer and closer. It was like thunder, not only on the ground, but even in the sky. There were countless black dots flying over. Sogu, 360. So, demonic beasts, a large number of demonic beasts. Tang Zheng shouted. The others panicked. Just now, a single demonic beast was already so difficult to deal with. This large number of demonic beasts was simply asking for their lives. Seeing his clansmen panicking, the elder roared, "What are you panicking for? Don't we still have Lord Envoy? Lord Envoy, please give the order. What should we do?" All of them turned their gazes towards Tang Zheng. Even Fang Shishir could not help but focus his gaze on Tang Zheng. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng had become the backbone of this group of people. Tang Zheng's face darkened. He looked into the distance, the little fellow's squeaking sounds coming from beside his ears. Retreat. The sacred grounds is no longer important. Let's retreat to the tribe. If we really can't, we can also leave the 10,000 huge mountains. Tang Zheng would definitely not have a problem facing 1 or 2 demonic beasts, but facing too many of them, he would not be able to do anything. The elder looked at the sacred grounds, then looked at the little fellow on Tang Zheng's shoulder and said, "All right, everyone go down the mountain immediately and return to the tribe as quickly as possible." Hundreds of people immediately took action. They only brought along their weapons and rushed down the mountain. Along the way, almost everyone discovered a strange place. The color of the rocks, soil, and trees had all changed. The red color retreated and gradually turned green. "Lord Envoy, what's going on?" the elder asked curiously. Tang Zheng thought back to the disappearance of the magma. Could it be related to that, or to the little fellow on his shoulder? However, it could not speak, and it was impossible to find out all the secrets from its mouth. However, Tang Zheng knew that the red energy was extraordinary. The red color that covered the entire mountain was actually retreating, so one could imagine how powerful it was. Where did this power go? He turned his head to look at the little fellow who was staring at everything curiously. Perhaps it could answer this question. Not long after, everyone arrived at the foot of the mountain. The thunderous rumbling sounds were getting closer and closer, and the earth seemed to be trembling. It was unknown how many tyrannical demonic beasts were attacking. They were definitely here for the Holy Land. But the key was that the giant egg had already hatched, and this little guy had also been born. Could it be that they still wouldn't give up? Could it be that he wanted to capture the little fellow and bring her back? Tang Zheng couldn't guess the demonic beast's motive, but no matter what, he couldn't just watch as the little guy was taken away. Everyone had already sat on the wooden raft and arrived at the center of the swamp. From afar, everyone could see dozens of tyrannical demonic beasts rushing out from behind. These demonic beasts were all very large in size. Some of them were even types that the elders had never seen before. From the other party's murderous aura and heaven-shaking roar, everyone could feel the murderous aura assaulting their faces. Although the demonic beasts were powerful, they had no way to deal with the swamp. After all, they would be trapped if they rushed into the swamp. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out, and a large black shadow flew over from the sky. It was a dozen or so bird-type demonic beasts, but all of them were huge in size. It was as if they knew that the eagle demon was at a disadvantage, so they did not approach. They only circled in the air and kept flapping their wings. A strong wind blew, and the wooden rafts swayed in the swamp. They could overturn at any time and be swallowed by the swamp. The witch clan had endless strength, and they all used bamboo poles to support the wooden raft, resisting the gusts of wind with great difficulty. "Throw the spear." The elder did not panic in the face of danger and ordered loudly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of spears soared into the sky and shot towards the group of demonic beasts. The demonic beasts circled around and dodged this round of attacks. Without a doubt, the demonic beasts were in an invincible position in the sky, and as long as the witch clan flipped over, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Everyone understood this point very well, so everyone's faces were somewhat panicked and pale. Especially since there were demonic beasts on the shore eyeing them covetously, it made things worse. This was not the way to go on. Tang Zheng looked at the black mass of demonic beasts above his head. His heart moved, and the war soul sword in his hand suddenly threw out. Whiz! The war soul sword was like a hot knife through butter as it soared into the sky. The sword tip that was suffused with a black light seemed to be tearing through the air, and in the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of a demonic beasts. The demonic beasts obviously did not expect a magic treasure to suddenly appear. The power of a magic treasure was far from what an ordinary spear could compare to. Just as the demonic beast was about to fly up and dodge the War Soul Sword, the War Soul Sword was even faster than it. With a poochie sound, it pierced into the demonic beast's body. The demonic beast let out an ear-piercing scream and started to churn in the air. When the other demonic beasts saw this, they did not escape. Instead, they became even angrier. They screamed and flapped their wings non-stop, causing an even bigger storm to sweep over. A wooden raft directly flipped over. The shamans lived in the swamps and forests all year round, so their adaptability was very fast. The moment the wooden raft flipped over, some people had already jumped onto other rafts, and some people who had already fallen into the swamp were quickly rescued by their clansmen before they sank into the swamp. But without a doubt, if this continued, as long as more rafts were blown over, there would definitely be people swallowed by the swamp. As for the demonic beast that was pierced by the War Soul Sword, it kept flapping its wings in midair as it struggled on the verge of death. Not long later, its wings finally stopped and it quickly fell into the swamp. With a bang, water and mud splashed in all directions. The dead demonic beasts quickly sank into the swamp and was swallowed bit by bit. Not long later, there were no traces of it. Watching their companions die, the other demonic beasts almost went crazy. Not only the demonic beasts in the sky, even the demonic beasts on the shore were roaring nonstop. If not for the obstruction of the swamp, they would have already rushed up and torn everyone to shreds. Lord Envoy, we can't go on like this. More and more rafts will be blown over. The elder's face was ashen as he said anxiously. Tangjing said, Elder, don't worry, they just want to blow over our rafts like this. It's impossible. The elder revealed a puzzled expression. He did not know what other trump cards Tangjing had up his sleeves. Suddenly, a sharp scream rang out, and another demonic beast fell from the sky. Screams rose and fell one after another, and another 3 demonic beasts fell into the swamp. The demonic beasts were in chaos as they scattered in all directions. The shamans also looked at this scene in shock. No one attacked, so how did these demonic beasts fall? Only the elder's eyes were sharp, and he actually saw a sword glowing with a black light amidst the group of demonic beasts. Of course, this was the War Soul Sword. The War Soul Sword appeared and disappeared unpredictably, and in an instant, it had stabbed 5 demonic beasts to death. The War Soul Sword seemed to be controlled by an invisible hand in the sky, as if it was an arm, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. The elder raised his white eyebrows and was overjoyed. He exclaimed, Imperial Sword Technique, Lord Envoy, are you using the Imperial Sword Technique? The corner of Tangjing's mouth curled up into a smile. The elder's eyes were indeed fiery. He was actually able to see through some clues. Tangjing was already at the first stage of the Foundation Establishment stage, so of course he could use the Imperial Sword Technique. Back then, he had already learned the Imperial Sword Technique from Tian Chanzi, and after his cultivation broke through, he would be able to use it smoothly. In the past few days, he had been silently practicing the Imperial Sword Technique in his free time. Today was his first time practicing it, and the effect was not bad. The power of the Imperial Sword Technique was indeed extraordinary, especially for such a long-range attack. It was even more effective. The demonic beasts obviously did not know that there was someone in this group who knew the Imperial Sword Technique, so they suffered a huge loss. When they scattered in all directions, they saw the War Soul Sword in the air that was glowing with a black light, and all of them revealed expressions of fear, not daring to attack again. Seeing that, Tangjing's heart moved. So, the War Soul Sword pierced towards another demonic beasts. The demonic beasts hurriedly dodged, and one of its wings was pierced. It then fled in a sorry state, and the other demonic beasts ran far away. The War Soul Sword swaggered in the air and gestured a few times at the demonic beasts as if it could attack at any time, causing them to not dare to act rashly. Tangjing heaved a sigh of relief. The Imperial Sword Technique consumed a lot of innate qi, so he could not hold on for a long time. This sudden attack caught the other party off guard, causing them to hesitate and not dare to act rashly. Thus, he kept his War Soul Sword and stood on the raft, looking at the group of demonic beasts from afar. The demonic beasts also looked at him, roaring in anger. but there was nothing they could do. Speed up, Tang Zheng urged. Immediately, the speed of the wooden raft was raised to its limit, and it shot forward like an arrow. When the demonic beasts on the shore saw that their companions had failed, they all roared in anger, and then rushed along the shore. The swamp was very big. When the Witch Clan people reached the center of the swamp, they could no longer see the shore. However, everyone knew that the demonic beasts had already surrounded them from the shore. They had to get to the shore before the demonic beasts reached their destination. After everyone worked together, the wooden raft finally reached the shore. Rumbling sounds could be heard as well. It was obvious that there was still a distance between them, but the pressure made people's hearts feel like they were about to break. Charge! Tang Zheng shouted loudly. Everyone got on their horses and rushed towards the tribe. Elder, you stay in front. I'll stay behind. Sure, you follow the elder. Tang Zheng ordered. I'll stay and help you. Fang Sure said. No, let's go quickly. Elder, you must take good care of her. Tang Zheng immediately rejected it. Fang Sure had suffered a loss at the hands of the python flood dragon, which made him feel very guilty. This time, no matter what, he could not let her take the risk. Moreover, the snake poison in her body had not been removed, so it was even more unsuitable for her to accept the challenge. The elder did not waste his breath and said, Miss Fang, let's go. He brought her to the front of the group and galloped towards the tribe. Lord Envoy, I'll stay behind to help you. Yi Yuan volunteered. His injuries had already healed. Looking at the determination in Yi Yuan's eyes, Tang Zheng did not refuse and nodded. Be careful later. The two of them followed at the back of the group and galloped. Actually, with the speed of the heavenly horse, it could definitely surpass anyone, but he would not do so. Since these people treated him as their backbone, then he had to be worthy of this trust. The tribe's tall stone statue was already in sight, and the demonic beasts were also chasing after them. Many trees were broken by them, and they rushed to the back of the group without any fear, rushing in front of Tang Zheng and Yi Yuan. Chapter 236. The demonic beasts roared with killing intent, but there was no fear in their hearts, only a raging, fighting spirit. So, the two of them jumped up from their horses and pounced towards the demonic beasts. Tang Zheng aimed at a bear demon that was about 5 meters tall, like a small mountain. Shua! The war soul sword flashed with a black light, and with a poochie sound, it pierced through the bear demon's heart. It looked at the black sword in its chest in disbelief, and fell to the ground with a loud bang. This time, Tang Zheng had used all his strength. There were no fancy moves at all. All of them were exquisite sword techniques from the flying immortals from heaven beyond sword technique. The killing power was very strong. The war soul sword was pulled out, blood splattering everywhere, and a wolf demon at the side also pounced forward, its long fangs shining with a cold light. With the example of the bear demon, the wolf demon was obviously more cautious. Seeing the war soul sword slashing towards it, it actually lowered its body and dodged the attack, while a black shadow flew up from his back, pouncing towards Tang Zheng's neck. This unforeseen event happened very quickly. Tang Zheng did not expect that the other party would still have a killing move on his back. A fishy smell assailed his nostrils. Tang Zheng could clearly see that the one pouncing towards him was not a weapon, but another demonic beast. Compared to the other demonic beasts, this demonic beast was like a small dot, only half a meter long. Just now, it was lying on the back of the wolf demon that was over 4 meters long, so it was not noticed by Tang Zheng. The war soul sword was already too late to defend, and Tang Zheng's other fist met the bloody mouth with a sound. Crack. The bloody mouth actually directly bit onto Tang Zheng. The huge bite force exerted on Tang Zheng's wrist, but his wrist was not broken. Only a mark was left behind. The copper skin realm of the first level of the chaotic Vajra spell was indeed not an empty name. It directly used its body to withstand the opponent's sharp teeth. Tang Zheng's heart moved as he guessed the origin of this demonic beast. He shouted, "So this is a wolf demon." The wolf demon's body was small, so it was not easy for the enemy to detect it when it was lying on the huge wolf demon. Especially when it attacked so quickly and suddenly, It was impossible for the enemy to guard against it. In the past, they had used this trick to kill many powerful enemies. Tang Zheng was not prepared for this, but his physical body was the best defense, and it directly saved his life. Seeing that he couldn't bite Tang Zheng's arm, the wolf demon's eyes revealed a look of panic and immediately fled back. "You want to leave? Leave your life behind." Tang Zheng roared. The war soul sword had already returned to its defensive position. A black light flashed, and with a kacha sound, Bei Yao's head was chopped off. The wolf demon let out a heart-wrenching roar and crazily pounced towards Tang Zheng. With a raise of the sword in his hand, another bloody head was chopped off. The fresh blood did not cause the demonic beasts to retreat. Instead, it aroused their ferocity, causing even more demonic beasts to attack like a tide. Yi Yuan's body was very nimble and he had boundless strength. He had an additional weapon in his hand, a long spear. The spear tip that flickered with a cold light was filled with killing intent and was extremely agile. With a piyub sound, it pierced into the body of a demonic beast and quickly pulled it out. With a sweep of the spear shaft, it struck another demonic beast and caused the demonic beasts to stagger to the side. But immediately, other demonic beasts rushed over to attack, causing Yi Yuan to be exhausted. The two of them blocked the attacks of all the demonic beasts. They had the aura of a man holding the pass and 10,000 men. However, in the end, it was difficult for two fists to fight against four hands. The demonic beasts continued to increase, causing their attacks to slow down. Yi Yuan's body was already covered in blood, and his clothes were dyed red with blood. There was both the blood of the demonic beasts and his own blood mixed together, causing the valiant aura on his body to become even stronger. Roar! Suddenly, a thunderous roar sounded out, and then the earth seemed to tremble. Tang Zheng and Yi Yuan only felt their vision go black, and a huge monster rushed over. Yi Yuan was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He only saw a claw grabbing towards him. With a shake of his wrist, the spear flower covered him from all directions. Kacha! However, with a muffled sound, the spear flower shattered, and the claw directly grabbed onto the spear head. With a series of cracking sounds, the spear head turned into a piece of scrap metal, and the sharp claw swept across. Bang! Yi Yuan was like a kite with a broken string, and was immediately sent flying. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright and shouted, "You are not allowed to hurt him." With a sweep of the war soul sword, it forced the demonic beasts in front of it to retreat. It pounced over like lightning and stopped the giant. He finally saw the appearance of this giant monster. It was a monster beast that was very similar to a cow. It was 10 meters tall and stood on its two hind legs. Its two front legs had sharp claws, and a pair of big round eyes glowed with a green light. The two horns on its head were like two sharp blades, shining with a cold light. What the hell is this? Could it be an ox demon? Tang Zheng was suspicious. Yi Yuan crawled up from the ground in a sorry state, staring at the demonic beasts with his eyes wide open. He shouted in shock, "Lord Envoy, this is a Kuei cow, a very powerful demonic beasts. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave. I'll cover the rear." As he spoke, he was about to rush towards the Kuei cow. Tang Zheng stopped him and casually threw him onto the heaven horse and shouted, "Heaven horse, quickly bring him away from here. I'll cover the rear." Just now, he had agreed to leave Yi Yuan behind because he hoped that there would be one more person so that he could completely stop the horde of demonic beasts and give the other clansmen time to escape back to the tribe. Now that the people of the Witch clan had definitely escaped back to the tribe, the mission of covering the rear was completed, and it was useless for Yi Yuan to stay. Yi Yuan was brave and good at fighting, so of course Tang Zheng would not just watch him die. He would not be able to help much even if he stayed, so he might as well let him leave quickly so that he could act according to the situation. The heaven horse glanced at its master, and with its 4 hooves flying, it carried Yi Yuan and rushed towards the tribe. Yi Yuan shouted, "Lord Envoy, I want to fight side by side with you. This is an order. Let's go." Tang Zheng was afraid that he would be stubborn and run back, so he directly said that it was an order. Tang Zheng already had absolute prestige in the Witch clan, so Yi Yuan did not dare to disobey. He could only clench his teeth, turn his head to look at the huge group of demonic beasts, and leave with tears in his eyes. Tang Zheng looked at the Kuei cow attentively, and the Kuei cow also looked at him. Their eyes met, and the two pairs of eyes, one big and one small, did not retreat in the slightest. The Kuei cow obviously knew that Tang Zheng was not a good person, so it did not rashly attack. It opened its mouth and actually spoke in human language. "Give us the things in the cave, and we'll let you live." Tang Zheng was shocked. This Kuei cow was obviously stronger than the other demonic beasts. It could actually speak human language, but when he thought about how the ginseng at home could also speak, he was not that surprised. However, he finally understood that the other party was indeed here for the little guy. What was so special about that little guy that could actually cause these demonic beasts to mobilize so many people? Please recommend. Chapter 237. Seeing the black mass of bird demons swooping down, Tang Zheng, who was in midair, had nowhere to borrow strength. The war soul sword quickly slashed downwards, borrowing the rebound force to soar into the air, barely dodging the bird demon's attack. At this moment, he was already over 100 meters in the air, even higher than the bird demons. The bird demons immediately turned around and soared into the sky, attacking him. Tang Zheng, however, allowed his body to fall rapidly, pouncing towards a bird demon that was rushing towards him. The bird demon's sharp beak immediately pecked at him, causing a strong wind to blow, but Tang Zheng was not hit. Instead, he waved the war soul sword, stirring up the air, and then, borrowing this force, he dangerously landed on the back of the bird demon. Tang Zheng grabbed onto its feathers tightly. The bird demon cried out angrily and kept rolling in the air, determined to throw Tang Zheng off. How could Tang Zheng let go so easily? Falling from a height of 100 meters, even if he did not die from the fall, it would still be difficult. Moreover, there was still a group of demonic beasts eyeing him covetously. The demonic beasts on the ground all raised their heads to look at the sky, their sharp claws and teeth aimed at the sky. As long as Tang Zheng fell, he would definitely be pierced by 10,000 blades. The bird demon had already risen hundreds of meters into the air, and Tang Zheng could only hear the whistling of the wind around him. Fortunately, he was bold and careful, and still did not let go, causing the bird demon to be unable to do anything to him. After all, Tang Zheng's position was too special, causing the bird demon to have no way to attack him. Seeing that Tang Zheng was so cunning, the other bird demons all rushed forward to help, but with a thought from Tang Zheng, the war soul sword, under the control of the imperial sword technique, pierced into the body of a bird demon that was rushing forward, and then this huge monster fell down. The other bird demons screamed in fear and retreated. Tang Zheng looked at the tribe from afar. There were already many demonic beasts rushing towards the tribe. Tang Zheng was extremely anxious. Just at this time, the bird demon seemed to know that it couldn't get rid of Tang Zheng in the air, so it simply swooped down, wanting to land on the ground and let Tang Zheng fall into the encirclement of the demonic beasts. Tang Zheng immediately saw through its thoughts. Seeing that they had already descended to a height of 100 meters, he directly hugged the bird demon's neck with both hands and pulled it up with all his strength. The bird demon let out a painful cry and helplessly rose into the air again. It flapped its wings and flew forward in the direction of the tribe. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Since the land was full of demonic beasts, it would be faster to fly back to the tribe. He placed the war soul sword on the bird demon's neck and said sternly, "Hurry up and fly forward, or else I'll kill you with one strike." The bird demon had already developed intelligence, so of course it didn't want to die. It wanted to shake off Tang Zheng, but it couldn't. In order to save its life, it could only be threatened by him. The speed of the man and the demon was very fast. They streaked across the sky like lightning and flew towards the tribe. The Kuei cow raised its head and looked at everything in the sky. Suddenly, the green light in its eyes exploded as it roared. "They're running away. Chase after them." Rumble. All the demonic beasts rushed towards the tribe. Tang Zheng's speed was even faster, even surpassing the group of demonic beasts that were rushing towards the tribe at the beginning. Seeing that they had already reached the entrance of the tribe, Tang Zheng had the bird demon lower its height. When it was still more than 10 meters away, he jumped down from its back. The bird demon once again rose into the air in panic. It looked at Tang Zheng from afar and did not dare to approach. Obviously, it had suffered a lot at his hands. When the people on the battlements saw Tang Zheng land at the entrance, they all cheered and immediately opened the door to welcome Tang Zheng in. At this moment, the vanguard of the demonic beasts had also rushed to the main entrance, but they were blocked by the tall door. These two doors were made of huge stones, and they were a whole, weighing tens of thousands of kilograms. Even if the witch clan was born with divine strength, it would have taken them a lot of effort to install these two stone doors back then. This stone door was like a natural barrier, blocking all the demonic beasts outside. It was difficult for them to advance any further, and they could only roar at the people on the battlements. Tang Zheng also stood on the battlements, meeting up with the elders, Fang Shishir, and the others. Fang Shishir cheered and jumped into his embrace. The soul-stirring battle just now had resounded through the clouds. Although she had not seen it with her own eyes, she could imagine how dangerous it was. Seeing him return safe and sound, she really felt as if she had been separated from him for a lifetime. Tang Zheng patted her back and comforted her. Fang Shishir also gradually calmed down and stood quietly at the side. The elder's face was ashen as he looked at the demonic beasts in front of the stone door and said worriedly, "Lord Envoy, I'm afraid that this stone door and the surrounding walls will not be able to block their attacks." Tang Zheng nodded. Even if he could block it for a while, he could not block it for a lifetime. "Lord Envoy, now that the restriction has been broken, you can lead the majority of our clansmen and leave first. I will stay behind to resist." The elder volunteered. Tang Zheng's expression turned cold, and he refused without hesitation. "No, I want to stay as well. These demonic beasts are here for the little fellow. I have to figure out what's going on." Speaking of the little fellow, a white figure jumped out from somewhere and jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder. Just now, before the battle, Tang Zheng had given it to the elders to take away. This was because he suspected that the demonic beasts were here for it from the very beginning. If he had lost the battle just now, he wouldn't have let it fall into the hands of the demonic beasts. Now that he was sure that the demonic beasts were here for him, he couldn't help but size it up even more carefully. It really looked no different from a puppy, except for its fiery red eyes. The little guy stood on his shoulder, its two front paws hugging his head, and intimately rubbed his head with its head. Its small eyes were filled with resentment, as if it was blaming him for leaving it just now. The elder also looked at the little guy curiously. Although he was knowledgeable, he could not recognize its origins. "Lord Envoy, the demonic beasts are coming aggressively. We must not let them obtain the Saint Beast. Since the Lord Envoy is not leaving, then even if our witch clan fights to the last person and bleeds to the last drop of blood, we will definitely not compromise." The elder vowed, "We will not compromise, we will not compromise." The other clansmen all shouted loudly. Regardless of whether they were men, women, old, or young, they all had determined expressions on their faces. Tang Zheng was excited and said loudly, "We will definitely get through this difficult situation. Everyone must have confidence." "Yes, get through this difficult situation. Get through this difficult situation." Morale was high, and an army of demonic beasts was welcomed outside the door. At the beginning, there were only a dozen or so demonic beasts surrounding the swamp, but now there were 40 to 50 of them, and the Kuei cow was obviously the leader. The Kuei cow walked forward with its head held high. Its gaze locked onto the little fellow on Tang Zheng's shoulder from afar. Its expression became excited and said loudly, "Hand it over, and we will retreat and let you live. Don't even think about it." Tang Zheng rejected loudly. "Attack." The Kuei cow did not waste any time. It waved its claws forward, and the army of demonic beasts rushed towards the tribe. The outermost perimeter of the tribe was a fence, and inside the fence was a tall city wall made of boulders. It was dozens of meters tall, and normal beasts would not be able to cross it. Please recommend. Chapter 238. The witch clan members all rushed down from the battlements and attacked the demonic beasts. In terms of individual strength, the demonic beasts were naturally stronger than any of the witch clan members. As a result, the few people at the front were sent flying, blood splattering all over the ground. When the others saw this, their eyes turned red and they roared, wanting to take revenge for their clansmen. More than 100 people immediately stopped the demonic beasts. However, it was impossible for all the people on the battlements to withdraw. They had to guard against the attacks of the demonic beasts outside. Tang Zheng rushed to the plaza and instantly rushed in front of the Kuei cow. Seeing that the Kuei cow's claws were about to smash a person's head, Tang Zheng anxiously grabbed the person and pulled him back, allowing him to escape from danger. Then, he raised the War Soul Sword and slapped the War Soul Sword with his claws, causing sparks to fly in all directions. A huge force was transmitted to Tang Zheng's arm, causing endless pain. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth could not help but twitch. The Kuei cow's eyes revealed a complacent and sinister smile, its other claw directly grabbing towards the little fellow on Tang Zheng's shoulder. Tang Zheng wanted to retreat, but he realized that he could not, because the Kuei cow's claws were already in front of the little guy, and were about to grab it. The little guy was furious. It stared with its fiery red eyes and stood up straight. Its two front paws were placed on its waist, and its mouth was emitting a squeaking sound. Suddenly, it opened its mouth and spat out a flame. The Kuei cow was caught off guard, and its claws were immediately ignited. Then, it let out a heart-wrenching scream and quickly retreated. Then, it quickly extinguished the fire and looked at the little guy in fear. Its claws had already turned black and were emitting black smoke, just like a roasted beef leg. The little guy squeaked twice, looking very pleased with himself, and even looked at the Kuei cow with disdain. Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. This little guy was powerful. He had burned the eagle demon in the sacred grounds, and now he had roasted the Kuei cow. Since he had the little guy's help, Tang Zheng's aura suddenly changed. Shwa shwa shwa, the War Soul Sword danced and attacked the Kuei cow. The Kuei cow seemed to be rather fearful of the little fellow and actually retreated while fighting. Fang Shishir also joined the battle. This was her second time participating in a battle. The first time was when she was poisoned by the python dragon snake venom. Now that her cultivation had greatly increased, her combat effectiveness had obviously increased. With a flash of her sword, a cold gleam of light pierced towards the chest of a demonic beast. This sword was just an ordinary treasure sword. With a flash of fire, the treasure sword was actually unable to harm the demonic beast at all, and the demonic beast's attack had already arrived in front of her. Fang Shishir shouted and quickly retreated, dodging the attack. At this time, Yi Yuan rushed forward, a new spear in his hand, and with a sound, he pierced towards the demonic beast's head. The demonic beast slapped away the spear, but Fang Shishir saw the opportunity and thrusted his sword forward, piercing into the demonic beast's chest, and then pulled it back, causing blood to immediately spurt out. A trace of fear flashed across Fang Shishir's eyes. This was the first time she had killed an enemy. In the past, she was just a good student and had never even killed a chicken or a fish. Today, she was infected by everyone's emotions, so she volunteered to charge into the fray. She never thought that she would see blood so quickly. Looking at the fear and despair in the demonic beast's eyes, the impact on her mind could be imagined. She was actually a little dazed. Yi Yuan discovered her absent-minded state and immediately stood in front of her to protect her. She was Lord Envoy's woman, so she definitely could not afford to lose. The demonic beast struggled on the verge of death. The sharp horn on its head collided with Yi Yuan's spear and was firmly blocked. Then, it fell to the ground with a loud bang, twitching a few times before dying completely. Miss Fang, this is a battlefield. If it doesn't die, then we die. Don't let your guard down. Yi Yuan warned. Yi Yuan had been in the forest all year round, so he already had a valiant aura. His words were very shocking. As if waking up from a dream, Fang Shishir looked at the corpses of the demonic beasts on the ground, then looked at the other people who were fighting to the death with the demonic beasts. He nodded his head heavily and silently warned himself, "This is a battlefield. These are all enemies. I cannot be soft-hearted." Her eyes gradually became resolute, her sword techniques became even sharper, and she cooperated with the other witch clan members to fight against the demonic beasts. Suddenly, a few more black shadows appeared in the sky. It was the few bird demons that had returned, and there was a demonic beast sitting on their backs. Without a doubt, these bird demons were doing the same thing, using themselves as transport machines, wanting to transport more and more demonic beasts in. Tang Zheng stared fiercely at these demonic beasts. If he did not exterminate these winged fellows, then there would be endless trouble in the future. Even if he killed these few demonic beasts, the other demonic beasts would still be able to break through his defense. Little guy, spit fire and turn them into roasted chickens, Tang Zheng said fiercely. The little guy was incomparably excited. He opened his mouth and spat out a flame. The flame soared into the sky and directly wrapped around a bird demon. Even the demonic beast on its back was ignited, turning into two huge fireballs. They screamed miserably and fell to the ground, rolling non-stop. After a while, they turned into two balls of black charcoal. Seeing that, the other bird demons all rose into the air, and the demonic beasts on their backs also jumped down. Damn it! He actually ran away when he saw that the situation was bad, Tang Zheng said in disbelief. Due to the addition of new demonic beasts, the fighting strength of the demonic beasts had obviously increased. Furthermore, the demonic beasts outside the city had launched another attack, pinning down the witch clan members on the battlements, causing them to be unable to send out more people to support them. The number of witch clan members far exceeded the number of demonic beasts, but the fighting strength of the demonic beasts was too strong. Not long later, a few more black dots appeared in the sky. Without a doubt, it was the group of bird demons again. This time, they became smarter and did not lower their altitude. Instead, they hovered more than 10 meters above the ground. Even if the little guy wanted to spit fire, it would be useless. So. A few more demonic beasts jumped down from their backs, and the demonic beasts' battle prowess instantly increased. The situation of the shaman tribe became more and more disadvantageous. More and more people fell, and blood dyed the square red. Along the mysterious patterns on the square, the blood gathered bit by bit and flowed towards the four gigantic stone statues. Tang Zheng's eyes were about to turn red. He was the so-called Lord Envoy, but he still did not protect the witch clan properly and allowed them to fall into a pool of blood. Looking at the fearless witch clan members, his heart was bleeding as he glared fiercely at the Kuei cow in front of him. The Kuei cow was afraid of the little guy's flames, so it started to circle around with Tang Zheng. It kept Tang Zheng's fighting strength at bay, so he did not have the energy to support the others. However, the Kuei cow's fighting strength was beyond Tang Zheng's imagination. It was obvious that the Kuei cow's strength was stronger than his, and the Kuei cow did not face the enemy head-on. It was only holding him back, making him watch as the witch clan members fell. Please recommend. Chapter 239. A large hand of the stone statue grabbed onto a 5-meter tall demonic beasts. With a boom, the demonic beasts exploded into a cloud of blood mist, without any chance to resist. Seeing this, the witch clansmen all cheered. The guardian god was indeed extraordinary. His first move was earth-shattering. The demonic beasts roared in anger, and a few of them directly rushed towards the stone statue. Bang, bang, bang. With a wave of the stone statue's hand, several demonic beasts were hit and flew far away, falling to the ground and shattering into pieces. The power of the guardian god was not something they could contend against. The Kuei cow's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. These stone statues were actually so powerful, he felt a tremble from the bottom of his heart. The Kuei cow turned around and rushed out of the city. Tang Zheng saw the opportunity and immediately chased after it, standing on its back with a sword, revealing its white bones. However, the Kuei cow only staggered and did not stop at all. Instead, its speed reached its limit, and it passed through the stone statue's legs. It only had time to turn its head to take a look, and discovered that the stone statue that had already walked to the center of the plaza had unleashed its divine might, sweeping through a few demonic beasts and killing them one after another. The morale of the witch clansmen was high, and they all stopped the other demonic beasts that had regained their senses and were ready to escape. In an instant, the demonic beasts died one after another. The Kuei cow raised its head and looked at the two stone statues guarding the battlements. If it escaped, it would be sending itself to its death. Thus, it cast its gaze to the sky and roared. A few black shadows pounced down quickly. The violent air currents formed a tornado that swept through the plaza. The stone statue did not even look at it. It punched the tornado, and with a boom, the tornado collapsed. The bird demon had already landed on the plaza. So. The Kuei cow and a few other demonic beasts rushed onto the back of the bird demon. The bird demon soared into the air, wanting to escape. Seeing this, the stone statue attacked one after another. A few demonic beasts were immediately swept down by the huge palm and fell into the plaza. They were immediately surrounded by the witch clansmen and were killed in an instant. The Kuei cow's carriage rose into the sky and escaped the calamity. Seeing this, Tang Zheng immediately picked up a long spear from the ground and threw it with force. So, the long spear broke through the air. The movements of the bird demon in the air clearly paused for a moment, then it flapped its wings and flew unsteadily towards the west. "It's too easy for it to escape just like that," Tang Zheng said unwillingly. When the other demonic beasts saw that their leader had escaped, they became even more panicked. They did not dare to resist at all, and all fled. However, it was easy to come, but how could they escape? Under the siege of the stone statue and the sorcerer tribe, all the demonic beasts that rushed in were annihilated. Only a few demonic beasts outside the city saw that the situation was not good and turned around to escape. The demonic beasts were finally completely repelled. Everyone could not believe this result. Originally, the witch clan was facing a calamity of extermination, but they did not expect to turn the tables so quickly. Everyone looked at the stone statues at the same time. They were their protectors. It was all because of their participation that the battle had undergone such a drastic change. The guardian god retreated to the surroundings of the plaza and returned to his original position. He did not move at all, as if he had never moved before. The elder had already walked to Tang Zheng's side and raised his head to look at the stone statue. After a long while, he sighed faintly. The guardian god is actually real. Tang Zheng was also deeply moved. When he first came to the witch clan, he was shocked by these four colossi. Just now, when he saw their strength, his heart trembled even more. Just how powerful were they to be able to destroy all the demonic beasts without any effort? Lord Envoy, did you notice how they were activated just now? The elder came back to his senses and asked seriously. This question concerned the survival of the witch clan. Tang Zheng looked in the direction of the stone statue, and his gaze involuntarily landed on the mysterious lines. The middle of the lines was actually extremely clean, without a single drop of blood. This was too abnormal. The ground of the plaza was almost completely covered in blood, and only the mysterious lines did not have any blood. The end of the lines was the bottom of the stone statue's feet. He immediately remembered that during the fierce battle, there seemed to be a bloody light flickering on the stone statue. Could it be that the bloody light was transmitted by these mysterious lines? That must be it. Tang Zheng told his judgment to the elder. The elder's eyes lit up, and he said, "Only the blood of the witch clan can awaken the guardian god. I know. The ancestor of the witch clan once said that the guardian god was protecting the witch clan from being destroyed. Just now, the witch clan was almost destroyed, and a large amount of witch clan's blood was poured into the guardian god's body, waking them up to protect the witch clan." Tang Zheng suddenly realized. So that was how it was. And what kind of background did the witch clan have in the past to be able to have four guardian gods protecting them? Where did these four guardian gods come from, and why did they protect the witch clan? There were too many questions that could not be answered one by one. Tang Zheng's gaze towards the guardian god became deeper and deeper, as if he wanted to pierce through the long river of history and trace back to the origin of the guardian god, to find out what kind of god they were. "Elder, let's clean up the battlefield first and treat the injured." Tang Zheng calmed himself down and said. Thus, everyone started to move and clean up the battlefield. The sorcerer tribesmen had suffered great losses in this battle. More than 100 of them were injured, and more than 20 of them had died. This was definitely not a small loss for the sorcerer tribesmen who only had about 500 people. Everyone's expressions gradually calmed down and became incomparably serious. Seeing the clan members who had been together with each other day and night being injured or turned into cold corpses, everyone's mood was a little low, but they were even more angry. They were filled with undisguised anger towards this group of demonic beasts that had suddenly attacked. The corpses of the demonic beasts were also collected. In the past, they had encountered demonic beasts and even hunted some small demonic beasts. However, it was obvious that there were not so many powerful demonic beasts. Looking at the mountain of demonic beasts' corpses, the hunters of the witch clan gradually became excited. These prey could only be found by chance, because their bodies were treasures everywhere. For a long time in the future, these demonic beasts would be able to provide for their daily needs. Furthermore, that was not all. Now that the restrictions had been broken, the witch clan could cultivate. The meat and cores of these demonic beasts could help the witch clan quickly increase their strength. Please recommend. Chapter 240. Seeing that, the elder scolded, "What are you doing in such a hurry?" Yi Yuan took a deep breath and said impatiently, "Lord Envoy, Miss Fong has fainted due to the poison. Please add." Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. His figure flashed and rushed out of the room, only to see Fong Shishir lying on a chair, surrounded by people, his face full of anxiety. Tang Zheng immediately saw that the green color in the middle of Fong Shishir's forehead had already spread outwards, gradually occupying half of her face. Her eyes were tightly shut, as if she was in great pain. He hurriedly hugged her and called out, "Shishir." No reaction. The elder also followed over, and when he saw Fong Shishir's condition, he turned pale with fright. "Lord Envoy, it must have been the fierce battle just now that caused the poison to flare up." As he said that, he took out a pill and handed it over to Tang Zheng. "This pill can temporarily alleviate the poison." Tang Zheng immediately let Fong Shishir take the pill, and the green color slowly gathered on his forehead again. Fong Shishir woke up and asked blankly, "What happened to me?" Tang Zheng revealed a pained expression. He never thought that the poison of the python dragon would be so strong and so difficult to completely neutralize. Looking at Tang Zheng's expression, Fong Shishir instantly understood what was going on and asked, "Am I poisoned?" 29. Tang Zheng nodded. Fong Shishir laughed bitterly. "Don't worry, isn't there still an elder? He will cure me." Supporting Fong Shishir to her feet, her face blossomed with a smile again, but Tang Zheng stared fixedly at the green color and said, Shishir, you just went through a great battle. Go back to your room and rest first." "All right, don't tire yourself out." Fong Shishir obediently returned to her room, while Tang Zheng looked at the elder seriously and asked, "Elder, is there any way to completely cure Shishir's poison?" The elder said in annoyance, "Lord Envoy, this old man is ashamed. During this period of time, I have already tried many methods, but in the end, I am still unable to cure it." Tang Zheng's head thumped. Fong Shishir was his woman. How could he watch her suffer? So he asked, "Is there really no other way?" The elder racked his brains, and after a long time, his eyes lit up. He said, "I've got it. The heaven origin fruit is a legendary antidote. It is the nemesis of all poisons in the world." "Where is the heaven yuan fruit?" Tang Zheng quickly asked. Hesitation appeared on the elder's face. "Elder, this is a matter of life and death. Why are you still hesitating?" The elder sighed and said, "The heaven origin fruit is in the 100,000 mountains. The heaven origin fruit likes yin and can only survive in places with the densest yin qi of heaven and earth." Hearing that the heaven origin fruit was in the 100,000 mountains, Tang Zheng could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He was overjoyed and said, "Since it's in the 100,000 mountains, then I'll go and find it as soon as possible." "Lord Envoy, there is only one place in this 100,000 mountains with the densest yin qi, and that is the forbidden area." This was the reason why he was hesitating earlier. The forbidden area was an extremely dangerous place, and from today's demonic beasts, It could be seen that going to the forbidden area was a place with a 90% chance of survival. Tang Zhang was slightly startled. Forbidden area? His expression changed for a moment before he resolutely said, "Even if I have to go through a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, I will still find the heaven origin fruit. Shirshir must not be harmed. I must cure her poison." "Lord Envoy, why don't we think of something else? Maybe it will work," the elder advised. However, Tang Zheng directly shook his head. "No, I will go to the forbidden area. Firstly, I will find the heaven origin fruit, and secondly, I will find out what relationship this little guy has with the forbidden area. Why do those demonic beasts want to snatch it back with no regard for their lives?" When he mentioned the holy beast, the elder's expression became serious. He bravely said, "I will go with you. We must find out the relationship between the demonic beasts and the forbidden area. We cannot let the demonic beasts have any ideas about the holy beast." Tang Zheng immediately rejected. "You have to stay here. This place needs you more. Moreover, this trip to the forbidden area is too dangerous. The more people there are, the easier it is to lose. So all of you stay here and start cultivating. Increasing your strength is the most important thing. Then who will protect your safety, Lord Envoy?" Tang Jing said confidently, "I will protect myself, don't worry. After so many years of changes, maybe the forbidden area is not as dangerous as the legends say." The elder said shamefully, "Lord Envoy, not only did we not help you, we have become a burden to you. We are truly ashamed." Tang Zheng did not mind and laughed. "There's no need to be so polite with me. Let's deal with the matter in front of us first." With that, he returned to his room to accompany Fang Shirshir. Seeing him come in, Fang Shirshir sat up from the bed, unable to hide the fatigue between her brows. Tang Zheng held her hand and said emotionally, "Today was too dangerous. It's been hard on you." Fang Shirshir smiled, leaned on his shoulder and said, "It's not hard. It's just that this is the first time I've experienced such a battle. It's too tense and exciting. In the future, you will have to experience all of this. Although it seems a little cruel, our world is destined to not be peaceful. If we make a mistake, we will not deal with others, but others will come and find trouble with us, so don't take it to heart. You will slowly get used to it." Tang Zheng comforted her. "I know." Fang Shirshir nodded heavily. "Shirshir, I will be going to the forbidden area next." Fang Shirshir's body tensed up. She stared straight at him and asked, "Go to the forbidden area? Why?" "You have been poisoned by the flood dragon, the elders, and I have no way to cure it. We can only go to the forbidden area to find the heaven yuan fruit. Only then can we cure your poison. No, the forbidden area is filled with demonic beasts. Wouldn't it be too dangerous for you to go? I won't let you go. Even if I die, I won't let you take the risk." Fang Shirshir grabbed his arm, as if she was afraid that he would immediately run away. Tang Zheng patted the back of her hand and comforted. "It won't be as dangerous as you think. It's just me. Even if I can't beat them, I can still escape. I can shrink the ground into inches. My ability to escape is not bad." "I said no means no. I can't be so selfish and let you take the risk for me," Fang Shirshir stubbornly said. Tang Zheng's head went soft. He suddenly pulled her into his embrace and said in a low voice, "For you, what is this little bit of danger? Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of fire, I will still go. Shirshir, you are my woman. This is what I should do." Fang Shirshir's eyes turned red, tears almost flowing out of her eyes. "But I'm scared. You saw how strong those demonic beasts were. There might be even more dangerous things in the forbidden area. I promise you, I will definitely come back safely. You can trust me, okay?" Their eyes met. Tang Jing asked. Fang Shirshir looked at the determination in his eyes. She did not speak for a long time. Her heart almost melted. "Promise me, you will definitely come back. I want to be your woman for the rest of my life," Fang Shirshir said emotionally. Tang Zheng grinned. "Of course, Shirshir, you will always be my woman. You can't escape even if you want to." Fang Shirshir shyly smiled. "I don't want to escape. It's best if you don't escape. I will hold on to you tightly anyway." After pausing for a moment, Tang Jing said again, "Actually, this time I am not only going to the forbidden area for you, but also for that little guy. It is the holy beast of the witch clan, and it even made the demonic beasts in the forbidden area so excited. It must be extraordinary. I also want to find out the reason. Yeah, that little guy is too cute. Fang Shishir thought of the cute little guy, her heart overflowing with love, and said from the bottom of her heart. As soon as he finished speaking, a snow-white figure came in from the window. It seemed to have heard Tang Zheng talking about it, so it swaggered over to Tang Zheng and rubbed against his feet a few times, very intimately. Fang Shishir immediately hugged it in her arms, gently stroking its fur. The little guy let out a squeaking sound, as if it was very happy. What's its name? Fang Shishir asked curiously. I don't know. Why don't you give it a name? Fang Shishir suggested. Tang Zheng looked at the little guy with interest. Looking at its snow-white fur, his heart moved and said, Why don't we call it Xiao Bai? Xiao Bai? Fang Shishir furrowed her brows. Isn't it too ordinary? It doesn't match its mystical nature at all. The little guy seemed to have heard the conversation between the two, and nodded seriously. It also felt that this name was too ordinary, not worthy of it. Looking at its charmingly naive appearance, Tang Zheng became more determined and said, Let's call it Xiao Bai. It's easy to remember. Squeak, squeak. The little guy raised its two claws and loudly protested, as if it didn't like the name. Fang Shishir couldn't help but laugh. See, even it is protesting. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and said, The protest is invalid. The little guy's two ears immediately drooped down, like a defeated soldier. It looked at Tang Zheng resentfully, then lay in Fang Shishir's arms. Seeing this, Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh. He carried it over and said, Xiao Bai, you're still complaining. Look at how much trouble you've caused this time, and how much damage you've caused. I still have to go to the forbidden area for you. You should thank me. Xiao Bai rubbed its head against Tang Zheng's face a few times, then quickly climbed onto his shoulder, squeaking twice, as if its spirit had improved a lot. The next day, all the members of the witch tribe formed a mighty team. More than 20 of their clansmen were lying in the coffins, and they came to a mountain not far from the tribe. There were many tombstones on the mountain, and they completely occupied the small mountain. Today, more than 20 new tombs would be added to the place where the witch tribe members of this generation were buried. Everyone's expression was very serious, and they were in low spirits. The simple and grand funeral was presided over by the elders, and no one cried as they watched the coffins of their clansmen being buried. Although everyone's eyes were red, they suppressed their cries. The witch tribe members were born warriors. They died on the battlefield and faced death with equanimity. This was their best home. Moreover, they were fighting to protect their clansmen, and the others would always remember their contributions. It started to drizzle, as if the heavens were sad for these warriors. Under the drizzle, everyone returned to the tribe without saying a word. Tang Zheng was about to embark on a new journey. Chapter 241. Tang Zheng led the heaven horse and stood in front of the huge stone door. Book Group A light rain fell from the sky, but everyone was standing in front of the stone door. A solemn atmosphere spontaneously arose, and all of their gazes were focused on Tang Zheng. Lord Envoy, I'll go with you. Yi Yuan volunteered. After experiencing these few battles, he already had a sincere admiration for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng shook his head. After I leave, you have to protect the safety of your clansmen even more. Elder, recently, everyone should not leave the tribe too far to prevent the demonic beasts from attacking. The elder nodded and said, Yes, Lord Envoy. You have to be careful this time. Fang Shishir agreed with him with red eyes. Tang Zheng, if it's too dangerous, come back. We definitely have other ways. Now that medicine is so advanced, this poison might not be impossible to cure. Tang Zheng smiled, telling her to be at ease, and then mounted the horse. At this time, Xiao Bai jumped onto his shoulder with a whoosh and hugged his head with all his might. Xiao Bai, hurry up and come down. I'm leaving. Be obedient in the tribe, and don't run around. Tang Zheng said. Gigi. Xiao Bai called out as he shook his head, refusing to let go. Tang Zheng understood its thoughts and asked, You want to come with me to the forbidden area? Xiao Bai hurriedly nodded. Lord Envoy, You must not. This trip to the forbidden area is too dangerous. If the holy beasts are together, it would be equivalent to a sheep entering a tiger's den. The elder immediately advised. Xiao Bai bared his teeth at the elder and called out, as if he was angry that the elder was actually going against him. Seeing that it was so determined, Tang Zheng's heart moved and said, I am going to investigate Xiao Bai's origins and the final goal of the demonic beasts. If Xiao Bai is with me, there might be an unexpected effect, and it will be more beneficial for the investigation. Xiao Bai was too miraculous. Moreover, with that magical flame, he could protect himself to a certain extent. There was no need to worry too much about him falling into the hands of demonic beasts. The elder was hesitant. Looking at Tang Zheng's resolute expression, he had no choice but to compromise and said, All right, then Lord Emissary and Saint Beast, please take care. We will wait for your triumphant return. Tang Zheng waved his hand and said with a smile, Don't worry, I'll definitely return triumphantly. As he said that, he looked deeply at Feng Shishir. Their eyes met, conveying deep affection. I'm going. Tang Zheng bellowed. The heaven horse's 4 hooves soared into the air and rushed out like lightning. The trees on both sides immediately retreated, and the whistling sound of the wind swept past his ears. Xiao Bai grabbed Tang Zheng's head and squeaked non-stop, waving his claws. His fiery red eyes were swollen with excitement. Tang Zheng glanced at its naive appearance and couldn't help but laugh out loud, scaring a group of birds. Urging his horse to gallop, he crossed over the mountains and through the swamps. The drizzle had already stopped, and the scorching sun hung high in the sky. However, this mountain was covered in lush vegetation, so only sparse sunlight shone on Tang Zheng's body. It was not that hot. The sun was setting in the west. Tang Zheng found a cave to rest for the night, ate some food, and continued on his way the next day. It would take 6 days to reach the forbidden grounds, but the heaven horse was faster than ordinary horses. Tang Zheng reckoned that 5 days would be enough. For 4 consecutive days, Tang Zheng's formation could be considered peaceful. Although he had encountered a few fierce beasts that did not open their eyes during this period of time, they were not demonic beasts. Tang Zheng hunted one and then ate a delicious barbecue. Xiao Bai also enjoyed the delicacies and ate heartily. In the end, most of the huge wild beast was eaten by Xiao Bai. Tang Zheng was very suspicious of how its little stomach could hold so many things, and what was even stranger was that in the past few days, its originally round and bulging stomach had become a lot smaller. Even after eating that head of barbecued meat, it did not become round and bulging again. Bang! Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. In this quiet forest, it was especially ear-piercing, and the heaven horse immediately stopped. Gunshot! Tang Zheng's pupils suddenly shrank. He was very sensitive to gunshots and could immediately tell, but how could there be gunshots in the mountains? There were other people who had entered the 10,000 huge mountains, and this was already considered the depths of the mountains. The other party was already very powerful to be able to reach this place, and was not an ordinary person. Tang Zheng remembered that Mu Hongyan had once said that every year, there would be an expedition team entering the 10,000 huge mountains to explore, but no one had ever come out. Could it be that this was another expedition team? Tang Zheng only wanted to reach the forbidden grounds as soon as possible and did not want to come into contact with anyone else. Just as he was about to spur his horse to run, he saw a fierce tiger jump out from the grass not far away. Bang! Another gunshot rang out, and a ray of blood blossomed from the tiger's head. Then, it fell limply to the ground and died. So. A few figures quickly rushed over. It was already too late for Tang Zheng to leave, as both sides had already discovered each other. Black muzzles were aimed at Tang Zheng. Not only were there pistols, there were even automatic rifles. Tang Zheng also saw that one of them was carrying a sniper rifle on his back, and another had a grenade hanging from his waist. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. This was not an ordinary expedition team. The country had strict gun control, and ordinary pistols were very difficult to obtain. Therefore, a local gangster like Lin who only had 1 or 2 pistols, and it took a Herculean effort to get them. But the people in front of him were obviously much more powerful than Lin Hu. This kind of firepower was definitely not ordinary people. Facing the black muzzles, he did not move, and Xiaobai looked at these black muzzles curiously. It did not know what these things were, nor did it know their power. "Who are you?" one of the people on the other side shouted. Tang Zheng's head trembled. This person's voice was strange, but he did not show any fear. He directly asked, "Who are you people?" "I'll ask you first. You answer me first." The other party moved the muzzle and said arrogantly. Tang Zheng was unmoved. "I'm just passing by." "Passing by? Why are you dressed like this?" The other party obviously did not believe him. He stared at Tang Zheng's clothes and asked curiously. Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked at his clothes. He was wearing the traditional clothes of the witch tribe, which was an ancient costume. Other than his short hair, he was completely different from the people outside the mountains. Since this group of people had extraordinary origins, then he should not reveal his identity first. Looking at the other party's suspicious gaze, he was afraid that they were also guessing his identity. "You live in this mountain?" the other party suddenly asked loudly. Tang Zheng's heart moved. His dressing was indeed too confusing. Since the other party mistook him for a native of this mountain, then he could take advantage of the situation. Thus, Tang Zheng asked righteously, "Could it be that you are from the outside? What are you doing here?" The other party had a look of joy on his face that he had guessed correctly. Then, he looked at Tang Zheng with a fervent gaze, as if he had seen his prey. So. A few more people quickly ran over from behind, and they were even leading horses. The horses were carrying equipment from the wilderness, such as tents and food, as well as gas masks. Tang Zheng suddenly realized. No wonder the other party had walked into the depths of the mountain. It turned out that they had gas masks, blocking the invisible miasma that could kill people. This group of people is definitely not as simple as exploring. Tang Zheng immediately made a judgment. An ordinary expedition team would not have such excellent equipment, and everyone seemed to be skilled, especially one of the people who walked over. When Tang Zheng saw this, his heart subconsciously tightened. Expert. This person was definitely an expert. Tang Zheng could not tell whether the other party was a martial artist or a cultivator, but he could not see through him at all. In addition, the other people also emitted an extraordinary aura and were not ordinary people. What is the purpose of this group of people coming to the 10,000 mountains? Tang Zheng started to think. Since the witch clan lived in this mountain, then Tang Zheng could not turn a blind eye to this mysterious force. What if they were here for the witch clan? "Come down or we'll shoot," one of them shouted. Tang Zheng pretended to be at a loss as he looked at the muzzle of the gun. Someone suddenly realized and mocked. "He's a bumpkin from this mountain. He doesn't even know what a gun is. What's the use of threatening him with a gun?" Haha. The others also laughed unscrupulously, looking at Tang Zheng with ridicule and ridicule. "Get off the horse, or your head will explode." The other party changed his words. Tang Zheng pretended to panic and shouted, "I don't know you. Are you going to kill me?" "Hee, a coward. Hurry up and come down." One of them walked towards Tang Zheng with a gun in his hand. Tang Zheng sat on the back of the heaven horse, looking down from above. If he were to counterattack now, he would definitely be able to catch them off guard. But if he wanted to kill everyone, he might not be able to do so. Moreover, whether or not the other party only had 10 people in front of him, and whether or not they had any other accomplices, these were all questions that Tang Zheng had to be concerned about. Therefore, he decided to wait and see. He got off his horse and said in panic, "Don't kill me, don't kill me." "Humph, it's fine if we don't kill you, but obediently answer our questions." Seeing that Tang Zheng had given in, the man obviously let down his guard and said arrogantly, "I'll talk. I'll tell you everything, as long as you don't kill me." Tang Zheng looked like a coward who was afraid of death. Xiaobai looked at Tang Zheng in astonishment, then looked at the group of people who obviously harbored ill intentions. He bared his teeth, as if he wanted to spit fire. Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He immediately hugged Xiaobai in his arms. "If you roast all these people, wouldn't you be exposed?" Xiaobai calmed down under Tang Zheng's suspicion, but he stared at the 10 people curiously with his eyes wide open. Even the heaven horse was staring at them without blinking. The most powerful expert in Tang Zheng's eyes walked in front of Tang Zheng. This person was only 165 meters tall, but his aura was oppressive, causing people to be unable to breathe. This person stared fixedly at Tang Zheng, as if he wanted to see through him. Fortunately, Tang Zheng had disguised himself well, so he was not seen through. You've always lived here, so do you know where the west is? The man pointed to the west and asked coldly. Chapter 242. West? Tang Zheng's mind trembled as he subconsciously looked towards the west. Wasn't that the forbidden area? Could it be that these people were also heading towards the forbidden area? But only a few people in the witch clan knew about the forbidden area. How did these outsiders know about it? Tang Zheng couldn't help but become more and more curious about the identities of these people, but he also heaved a sigh of relief. As long as they weren't here for the witch clan, then the witch clan would be safe for the time being. Sogu, 360. So, do you know where the west is? The other party saw through Tang Zheng's expression and asked sternly. Tang Zheng hid it extremely well, but he was still found out, so he hurriedly nodded and said with a look of fear, "Of course I know, that is where the demons live." Since they were also here for the forbidden area, and the forbidden area was so dangerous, why didn't Tang Zheng take the opportunity to let them be the vanguard? He only needed to quietly follow behind and take advantage of the situation. When these 10 people heard that it was a place where the demons lived, they were not afraid. Instead, they were very excited and eager to give it a try. Then do you know how to get there? Tang Zheng immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. I'm not going. If I go, I'll die. Another person rushed up and took out a blade and placed it on Tang Zheng's neck. He threatened with a stern voice, "If you don't go, then I'll kill you right now." Perhaps the other party thought that Tang Zheng didn't know the power of guns, so he directly threatened him with a blade. When Tang Zheng saw this blade, his heart trembled. This was a katana, the same as the weapons used by the group of evil spirits he met in the ordinary balance. So this group of people were actually from Japan. No wonder their tone was so strange. But why did the Japanese travel so far and cross the ocean to come to the 10,000 mountains? Tang Zheng became more and more vigilant. Although it was a peaceful era, there were undercurrents, and their purpose for coming here was definitely not simple. Therefore, the key was to figure out their purpose. Tang Zheng pretended to be afraid and shouted, "What are you doing? Don't kill me, don't kill me. If you don't want to die, then take us to that place." Tang Zheng deliberately hesitated. "If you dare not agree, I will cut off your head right now." Creak, creak. Xiao Bai, who was in Tang Zheng's arms, grimaced. Seeing that Tang Zheng was in danger, it was about to spit fire and retaliate. Tang Zheng quickly covered its mouth and said in fear, "Okay, I promise you. I'll take you there. Please don't kill me." The other party laughed complacently, full of ridicule, and moved the katana to the side. "Chinaman is a coward." A group of people laughed wildly. Tang Zheng's anger surged, but he could only pretend that he didn't understand. He hatefully said in his heart, "You can laugh now, but I'll make sure you die without a burial. Let's go, lead the way." The man patted Tang Zheng's shoulder with his katana and said. Tang Zheng led the heaven horse towards the forbidden grounds. Before he came, the elder had already told him the way to the forbidden grounds, so he was quite familiar with it. If we had known earlier that there were these bumpkins, we wouldn't have lost more than 10 of our companions. Someone sighed. They all sacrificed their lives for the heavenly emperor. They died a worthy death. The most powerful person was obviously the leader, and he said righteously. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that they had not arrived here safely, but had paid a heavy price. This made sense. After all, there were too many unknown dangers in the forest. "Do you have any other family members?" The leader walked over and asked coldly. Tang Zheng pretended to be sad and shook his head. "No more?" "Oh, then what else do you know about that place?" Tang Zheng shook his head blankly. "I don't know. I only know that I must not go there. If I go, I will die. I'll bring you to that place, and you'll let me go, okay?" The leader smiled noncommittally. "Don't worry. It would be difficult for ordinary people to survive there, but we can definitely survive. You must come with us. We will protect you." Tang Zheng immediately waved his hands. No, no, that's a place of the devil. I don't want to go in. Humph, if you don't want to go in, I'll kill you right now. Another person threatened. Tang Zheng's entire body trembled. He was so scared that he did not dare to speak again. The leader glanced at the man and said with a pleasant expression, "Don't listen to his nonsense. As long as you complete this mission, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. I will give you a lot of benefits." Tang Zheng coldly snorted in disdain. "I think you want me to scout the way and use me as cannon fodder. All right, since that's the case, let's see who will be the cannon fodder in the end. What kind of horse is this? It looks so tall and mighty." The leader placed his gaze on the heaven horse. The heaven horse was taller than the average horse and seemed to be extraordinary. "It's the wild horse in this forest." Tang Zheng lied. "Wild horse? Is there anything else?" Tang Zheng's heart moved. The other party had his eyes on the heaven horse. If he said that there was only one, then wouldn't it be snatched away immediately? Thus he said, "There's still more. There's still quite a few. Where is it?" Tang Zheng randomly pointed in a direction and said, "It's over there, a bit far." The leader's mouth curled into a smile, and the others also laughed maliciously. Someone asked in a low voice, "Yamamoto, is this horse very special?" "Of course, this horse's physique is rare. It is even more extraordinary than the purebred warhorse raised by the Sky Emperor. If we can bring some back and offer them to the Sky Emperor will definitely be very happy." The others were secretly delighted. The Sky Emperor loved to collect all kinds of top horses in his life, so these people naturally wanted to do what he liked. "Then what's that little thing in your arms?" Yamamoto asked again. "It's a puppy I raised." Tang Zheng did not plan to tell the other party about Xiao Bai's uniqueness. Otherwise, it would definitely attract the attention of these people. Xiao Bai twisted his body, as if protesting against Tang Zheng calling him a puppy. Yamamoto looked deeply at Xiao Bai, and indeed, he was not much different from a normal puppy, so he ignored him. "Yamamoto, put our things on this brat's horse. Our warhorse has been tired for so many days," someone suggested. Yamamoto nodded in agreement, and thus, a few more bags of luggage appeared on the heaven horse's back. With the heaven horse's unruly personality, it originally wanted to resist, but it was only calmed down by Tang Zheng's firm hold. After half a day of arduous climbing and waiting, the group finally arrived at their destination. A huge stone tablet stood in front of them. The stone tablet was about 9 meters tall and was as black as ink. There were 4 shocking words carved on the stone tablet. "Trespassers will die." These 4 words were incomparably red, as if they were written with blood. They had a soul-stirring magic, causing people to involuntarily feel reverence when they saw them. The 10 Japanese people all revealed excited expressions, especially the leader, Yamamoto, whose hands were trembling with excitement. One of them couldn't help but stroke the stone tablet and said with a trembling voice, "We finally found it, the Heavenly Emperor's blessing. Ah, my hand." Before he could finish his excited words, the man screamed miserably. He raised his hand, his face full of pain and fear. His palm had already turned pitch black, and the black color was still rapidly expanding. Soon, it had spread to his arm. "There's poison on the stone tablet. Don't touch it." Yamamoto turned pale with fright and shouted loudly. He pulled out his katana and with a swoosh, chopped off his opponent's arm without hesitation. The man screamed miserably and knelt on the ground. His facial muscles were almost twisted together, and thick black blood flowed out from his severed arm. When the others saw this, they all scattered in all directions and looked at their companions nervously. Originally, they thought that cutting off their arms would save their lives, but it was obvious that their thoughts were too simple. The black color continued to expand, and in an instant, even his face had turned black like charcoal, exactly the same color as the stone tablet in front of him. The heart-wrenching screams made people's hearts turn cold, and the following scene was even more frightening. The man's body began to fester, and after a minute, he turned into a skeleton. In the end, even the bones melted and seeped into the soil. The others had never seen such a shocking scene before, and their faces all turned pale. Yamamoto clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. I'm going to kill you. Suddenly, a person rushed towards Tang Zheng, his huge fist attacking Tang Zheng. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Tang Zheng dodged in a sorry state and finally dodged the fierce punch. Suppressing the urge to retaliate, he shouted. He clearly touched the stone tablet and died. How did it become my fault? Why didn't you tell us not to touch the stone tablet? The other party did not give up and asked fiercely. I don't know either. Tang Zheng looked wronged on the surface, but in his heart, he was overjoyed. However, he really didn't know that the stone tablet was poisonous. What the elder said was true. This forbidden area was indeed extremely terrifying. Even the stone tablet at the entrance actually contained poison. Stop! Yamamoto suddenly roared. He's still useful. The others glared at Tang Zheng, but did not shout to kill him anymore. Bring us in, Yamamoto said in a deep voice. Tang Zheng did not retort anymore, and cowered as he led the people into the forbidden area. The sky in the forbidden area seemed to have dimmed a lot, and the trees in the forbidden area gradually became sparse. It was a lifeless scene. No one dared to touch any plants or anything else, because this place was definitely filled with danger. If they weren't careful, they would lose their lives. Tang Zheng also became extremely alert. Although he had already decided to kill this group of people, he still had to ensure his own safety first. Tang Zheng was pushed to the front of the group. He was obviously cannon fodder to scout the way. Tang Zheng looked left and right, but did not see any traces of demonic beasts. Didn't they say that demonic beasts were rampant in the forbidden area? Why was it so quiet? Yes, this was a deathly silence. There was no sound at all. It was too strange. Hurry up and send a few demonic beasts over. Kill a few of these guys. Tang Zheng prayed silently. As if the heavens had heard his prayer, a series of muffled footsteps could be heard. A demonic beast jumped out and blocked their path. Tang Zheng cried out in fright and immediately retreated. He ran faster than a rabbit and immediately made the team face the demonic beasts that had suddenly appeared. Chapter 243. The Japanese looked at the fleeing Tang Zheng in ridicule, and looked at the demonic beasts that suddenly appeared without fear. This was a leopard demon, a few meters long. Its entire body was covered in spots, and its eyes were filled with an ominous glint. Why is this leopard so big? Someone muttered to themselves in confusion. However, the Yamamoto's gaze turned cold as he reminded them, this leopard is already a demonic beast. Everyone must be careful. Hearing that, Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. This Yamamoto actually knew about demonic beasts, so he was definitely not an ordinary warrior. However, he did not show any abnormality and continued to cower in the middle of the group. Kill! The Yamamoto suddenly shouted, and two figures rushed towards the leopard demon. In a flash, the two of them had already jumped onto the leopard demon's head, and their shining katanas fiercely chopped down. Whiz! The leopard demon leaped into the air, its speed even faster than the two of them. Its sharp claws had already grabbed onto one of their chests. Puff! A stream of blood splattered out, but it was not the Japanese's blood, but the leopard demon's blood. The two of them cooperated very well, and in just one round, the leopard demon was actually injured. The leopard demon landed on the ground in a sorry state and let out a heaven-shaking roar. The angry roar spread far and wide, and another angry roar sounded out, as if it was responding to the leopard demon. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. This short battle allowed him to see through too many things. This group of people who he could not see through were definitely not simple, especially that flawless killing move that had displayed their strength to the fullest. The absolute strength of these two people was actually around the 9th grade of body refining stage. These two people were only in their 20s, yet they had such a cultivation level. Without a doubt, they were definitely the best of the best. Tang Zheng was surprised, but he became even more cautious. Facing such a group of people with outstanding strength, even if he launched an attack himself, he might not be able to completely wipe them out. It would be better to let the demonic beasts consume their strength. When the Yamamoto heard the roar in response from afar, his expression suddenly changed as he shouted, end the battle quickly. As a result, 2 more people joined the battlefield. For katanas launched a swift and violent attack on the leopard demon, and in an instant, the leopard demon's life was harvested. Go! Yamamoto shouted loudly, and the few of them quickly rushed in one direction. Not long later, they heard an earth-shaking roar coming from behind them. It was obvious that the demonic beast's reinforcements had arrived. The few of them had ugly expressions on their faces. Yamamoto said in a deep voice, "These demonic beasts are the guardians of the tomb. We have to avoid them. Otherwise, if we get surrounded by them, it won't be good for us at all." Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. These people actually knew about the tomb. Logically speaking, the tomb should have been something that happened a long time ago. How did these people know about it? Tang Zheng felt that these people were getting stranger and stranger. Who is buried in that tomb? Why are there so many demonic beasts guarding it? Someone asked in confusion. Yamamoto was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he carefully took out an ancient sheepskin scroll from the inner layer of his clothes and focused on reading the ancient scroll. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. This sheepskin scroll was definitely not something from the modern era, but something from a long time ago. He did not know what was recorded on it. Yamamoto did not let anyone else look at the sheepskin scroll. Instead, he stared at it for a long time and said, "The owner of the tomb is an ancient supreme expert. He has the ability to control hundreds of beasts and is respected as the Beast King. These are the demonic beasts that he subdued and their descendants." Tang Zheng really wanted to go up and take a look at what else was on the sheepskin scroll. He actually knew more than the Witch Clan elder. Everyone suddenly realized and sighed. Then how powerful is this Beast King to be able to subdue so many demonic beasts? Yamamoto shook his head. There are no records of this. No matter what, this place is guarded so tightly. There must be something extraordinary. Everyone revealed excited expressions. If it was an extraordinary item, then it would be a treasure. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. Originally, he had only come to understand why the demonic beasts wanted to capture Xiaobai and find the Heaven Yuan fruit. He did not expect that there would be treasures here, so he should not miss it. When Yamamoto spoke, he glanced at Tang Zheng and did not avoid him. In fact, this already showed that even if Tang Zheng was lucky enough to not die, he did not plan to let him continue to live. Go this way. The tomb is in that direction. Yamamoto pointed in a direction, then carefully put away the sheepskin scroll. Everyone immediately moved forward. After a while, the sky became darker and darker. The sun had already set, and the sky was about to turn dark. This time, they did not encounter any demonic beasts. Everyone tried their best to remain silent. Tang Zheng once again walked to the front of the group and was warned that if he turned around and ran again, his head would be chopped off. Tang Zheng fearfully agreed, and then continued to cower in the front. Suddenly, Tang Zheng saw a white fog in the distance, and this white fog quickly floated towards them. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of them. Miasma. Tang Zheng had taken the antidote pill, but Heaven Horse and Xiaobai were not afraid of the miasma, so they were not afraid at all and walked towards the miasma. Yamamoto had already realized that something was wrong. Towards the miasma, these people had suffered losses before, and some of their companions had even lost their lives. Thus, he immediately shouted, "Stop! You are not allowed to walk forward." However, Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to him, because he saw that there were still a few gas masks on the back of the Heaven Horse. Without the gas masks, these people would definitely die if they were to face the miasma. He did not want to let go of this great opportunity to exhaust their strength. Thus, Tang Zheng patted the back of his horse and quickly rushed into the miasma with the Heaven Horse. By the time Yamamoto reacted and wanted to chase after him, Tang Zheng had already disappeared into the miasma. Tang Zheng hid within the white wither and heard angry curses from afar, followed by miserable screams. Tang Zheng was overjoyed and said, "Someone must have died from inhaling the miasma." He looked at the luggage on the horse's back, threw it away, and then rode the Heaven Horse forward. However, without Yamamoto's guidance, it would not be easy for him to find the grave. However, he was not in a hurry to find the grave. so he decided to find the heaven yuan fruit first. The heaven yuan fruit grew in a place where Qi gathered, and in this forbidden area, Tang Zheng could clearly feel that the Qi was much denser than the Qi outside. However, how to find the place where the Qi gathered, which was also the place where the Qi was the densest, was the key. However, this was not difficult for him. He took out the War Soul Sword, and with a thought, the War Soul Sword's black light expanded, and then, a huge monster flew out from the sword. War Soul. The War Soul was formed from Qi, so it was the most sensitive to Qi. Moreover, the War Soul had undergone a lot of changes. Its body had shrunk a little, but it was more condensed. War Soul, find the place with the densest Qi, Tang Zheng said. The War Soul understood his words, and now, the two of them could communicate with each other in a simple manner. The War Soul led the way. Tang Zheng rode on the heaven horse, and Xiaobai jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder, staring at the big fellow with wide eyes. As for Yamamoto and his group, they were not as comfortable as Tang Zheng. They could only watch as Tang Zheng disappeared into the miasma, and they did not have enough time to chase after him. They could only go and retrieve the gas masks on their warhorses, but it was obvious that there were not enough of them. 9 people only had 5 gas masks, while the faces of the others and the horses were carried by the heavenly horses. They never thought that this move would kill them. If they let their warhorses carry their luggage, then even if Tang Zheng escaped into the miasma, he would not be able to harm them. However, if the heaven horse did not have a face, then Tang Zheng would not be in a hurry to run away. Instead, he would follow them and think of other ways to trick them. Their unintentional actions had helped Tang Zheng, and there was no room for discussion. Yamamoto had already put on his gas mask, and seeing that the others were about to snatch the remaining 4 masks, he shouted, "The person with the strongest power will wear the mask." Immediately, the faces of the 4 people who were relatively weak turned pale, because this meant that they had to breathe in the miasma and die. Facing the threat of death, some people were unwilling to give up. They snatched a gas mask and prepared to put it on, but Yamamoto was even faster. With a raise of his hand, a slit appeared in the man's throat. Blood spurted out, and he fell to the ground. "You are royal warriors. You must have the spirit of sacrifice," Yamamoto said with killing intent. The few of them lowered their heads, not daring to act rashly. The 4 people with relatively high skills quickly put on their gas masks. At this time, the miasma had already surrounded the few of them. The warhorse immediately spat out white foam and fell to the ground dead. The 3 of them hurriedly circulated their energy to resist, but after a while, their faces turned pale. The veins on their foreheads popped out, and they foamed at the mouth. Their eyes rolled back, and they fell down weakly. The few people who survived had lucky looks on their faces. Yamamoto did not even look at him. He looked at the thick white fog and gritted his teeth in hatred. A person at the side said, "Yamamoto, that brat deliberately barged into the miasma to get rid of us. He must have a way to get out of danger. We were tricked by him. You dare to trick us? We must find him and tear him into 10,000 pieces." The others gritted their teeth in hatred and agreed. Of course, Yamamoto knew that he had been tricked by Tang Zheng, and in front of so many of his subordinates, it was simply unforgivable. These high and mighty warriors of the Heavenly Emperor had actually been tricked by a country bumpkin in the mountains, and had even lost so many people's lives. He had to take revenge for this. He's definitely not alone. It's easier said than done for a person to live alone in this forest. Furthermore, the material of his clothes is very good, so I suspect that there are other people living with him. Once the matter here is settled, we must find him. Not only him, but his family will also die and be buried with them," Yamamoto said with killing intent. The others agreed with indignation. "We must kill all of these Chinas, just like our ancestors did decades ago. Kill all of them." Yamamoto's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "There will be such a chance. As long as we succeed this time, we will have the chance to come back and turn this land into ours. Kill them all." Chapter 244. Under the lead of the War Soul, Tang Zheng walked out of the miasma and arrived in front of a cemetery. This was a large cemetery with many tombstones of different heights. Moreover, the gloomy aura was dense, causing people to uncontrollably feel fear. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. Just how many people were buried here? There were actually so many graves. Didn't that Yamamoto say that there was only one Beast King's tomb? Tang Zheng could not figure it out, but looking at the Densine Qi, his face gradually revealed a look of joy. The Yin Qi is gathering here. Maybe there is a heaven yuan fruit. Thus, he lifted his leg and walked towards the cemetery. But just as he stepped into the cemetery, a furious roar came from beside his ears, and a strong gust of cold wind swept over. He turned pale with fright. Without even thinking, he subconsciously brandished the War Soul sword and quickly slashed in the direction of the cold wind. Clang! With a muffled sound, a huge force was transmitted to Tang Zheng's arm. He retreated a few steps and barely managed to stabilize himself. Looking up, he finally saw the enemy clearly. He saw that the other party was wearing black armor and holding a spear in his hand. The tip of the spear was aimed at Tang Zheng. However, there was not the slightest bit of life on this person's body. Instead, there was a deathly aura around him. His entire body was enveloped in black Yin Qi, and his face was ferocious. This was definitely not a human, but was condensed from Yin Qi. It was like an evil spirit like the War Soul, but it was clearly much stronger than the War Soul. Tang Zheng's guess was right. This was not a living person, but a Yin General condensed from Yin Qi, extremely similar to the Ghost General. If the War Soul's strength increased, it would also become a Yin General in the future. The Yin General's strength did not lose out to the Ghost General. Back then, the first-grade innate stage martial artist had suffered a great loss at the hands of the Ghost General. Even though Tang Zheng's strength had greatly increased, a first-grade foundation establishment stage martial artist would definitely not be able to gain an advantage over the Yin General. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the prehistoric heavenly tomb? The Yin General asked sternly. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. So prehistoric heavenly tomb was the name of this tomb. Could it be that this was the tomb of the Beast King that the Japanese were looking for? Since they were coveting the tomb of the Beast King, and the guy in front of him was obviously not so easy to deal with, Tang Zheng had an idea and asked, "Is the tomb of the Beast King inside?" This is not only the tomb of the Beast Kings, but also the resting place of many fallen sages. Outsiders are not allowed to disturb this place, the Yin General said coldly. Tang Zheng was shocked. There was actually more than just the Beast King's tomb here, which meant that the group of Japanese people's information was not completely correct. There were also many other great figures buried here, and they were all great figures that were not inferior to the Beast King. Tang Zheng had already been brought back to the country, so I had the opportunity to obtain it by chance. We can't forget their achievements, Yamamoto said seriously. Hey, the others immediately nodded. We will inherit the will of our ancestors. We will definitely let our army set foot on this land once again. Whiz! As soon as he finished speaking, a long spear attacked. One of the people's chest was directly pierced through, and then the person was nailed to the ground, the spear shaft trembling nonstop. The man's eyes widened as blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Even when he died, he didn't understand how he had suddenly died. The others all revealed looks of shock. At the same time, their bodies also moved, jumping in all directions as fast as lightning. As a result, when the Yin General's second round of attacks arrived, the few of them were finally able to avoid it. Trespassers, kill without mercy. The Yin General stopped and said sternly. The Yamamoto looked at the Yin General in anger and shouted, "You dare to kill my people, you're courting death, trespassing into the prehistoric heavenly tomb. You are the ones who are about to die." The Yin General said coldly, "Yamamoto, why is there someone here? Didn't the sheepskin scroll say that this is only a tomb and that there's no one here?" A Japanese asked in panic. The Yamamoto stared fixedly at the Yin General and said, "Who said he was human? Can't you see that he's condensed from Yin Qi?" Condensed from Yin Qi? Yes, if I'm not wrong, he should be a Yin General. I never thought that I would meet a Yin General here. The Yamamoto revealed the Yin General's origins in one sentence. Tang Zhang was hiding too far away. Otherwise, if he heard the Yamamoto's words, he would be even more surprised and would understand that his identity was definitely not a small matter. So what if you're a general? Those who dare to kill our people will still be killed without hesitation. The Japanese did not put the general in his eyes and said disdainfully. The Yamamoto said, "If you dare to go against me, you will indeed die." With that said, the Yamamoto rushed forward, the katana ruthlessly slashing towards the general, but with a wave of the general's hand, the spear flew back into his hand. Clang! With a muffled sound, the general actually took a step back, but the Yamamoto quickly attacked again. The katana was extremely sharp, forcing the general to continuously retreat. Tang Zhang was dumbstruck. So this Yamamoto is actually so powerful. He is at least a pre-celestial expert. He could not help but rejoice that he did not rashly make a move earlier. Otherwise, in front of this pre-celestial expert, he would be in too much danger. However, there was no need to worry too much. As long as he followed behind such an expert, it would be easier for him to enter the prehistoric heavenly tomb. If the Yamamoto was too weak and was directly blocked outside the tomb by the general, Tang Zhang would not be able to enter. The battle between the Yamamoto and the general had reached its climax. The general's defeat was obvious, while the Yamamoto became braver and braver. Tang Zhang had to admit that the Japanese were sometimes very strong. The pre-celestial expert was a true expert in any country, and the leader of the other party's mission this time was a pre-celestial expert. This showed how much importance the Japanese placed on this mission. Gotcha! Suddenly, a resplendent light erupted from the katana. With a slash of the katana, the long spear was actually cut in half. The general staggered back, roaring in anger. However, the Yamamoto became more and more valiant, and another blade slashed down from the sky. Pucci, the general, was actually split into two, turning into strands of chi. The others all cheered. The Yamamoto is truly valiant. This general is only a... The Yamamoto's face revealed a complacent expression as he looked into the depths of the tomb and said, "I don't know what unknown dangers lie ahead. We must not be careless." With the Yamamoto here, they are like mantises trying to stop a chariot. They overestimate themselves. The few of them flattered. Let's continue forward. I have a premonition that we will definitely return victorious this time. Furthermore, the fruits of our victory will definitely be more abundant than what we imagined before. The Yamamoto said. The other three nodded their heads. Then, they no longer looked at their dead companions and walked towards the depths of the prehistoric heavenly tomb. After the other party had walked far away, Tang Zhang quietly poked his head out, preparing to chase after them. But suddenly, the sound of fighting came from afar. Tang Zhang turned his head to look, only to see that under the night sky, under the moonlight, a few demonic beasts seemed to be surrounding a person, and the two sides were fighting intensely. Tang Zhang was shocked. There were actually other people in the forbidden grounds. Chapter 245. Who was this third group of people? Tang Zhang was very curious. He looked in the direction where the 5 Japanese disappeared and thought to himself, the road in the prehistoric heavenly tomb will definitely not be smooth sailing. Thus, they will not be walking very fast. Why don't we go and see who this third group of people is? Sogu, 360, So. He hid the heaven horse and Xiaobai in a hidden place behind a large rock, and then quickly rushed over. The sounds of battle were extremely intense, and a figure danced like a butterfly, shuttling back and forth among the demonic beasts, not falling into a disadvantageous position at all. Tang Zhang immediately stopped in his tracks and hid his tracks. This figure was too familiar, it was unforgettable for him, and it had once made him gnash his teeth in hatred. Li Xiaotian. This familiar figure was actually Li Xiaotian. Why did she come to the forbidden grounds? When Tang Zhang returned, he was told that Li Xiaotian had left without saying goodbye, but he did not expect her to actually come to the 10,000 huge mountains, and it was obvious that she was here for the forbidden grounds. Wasn't the forbidden grounds a very mysterious place? Why was it the Japanese first, and now Li Xiaotian? Why did they all come here? This place was like a market. It was a bit too lively. However, he immediately thought of the Li Palace behind Li Xiaotian. The Li Palace was mysterious and unfathomable, and it was also greater than or equal to the most powerful intelligence agency. Since the Japanese were able to find out about the existence of the Forbidden Grounds by chance, it seemed like it was not surprising that the Li Palace knew about the Forbidden Grounds. But at this moment, the strength that Li Xiaotian displayed caused Tang Zheng to be very shocked. This little girl's skills were actually so terrifying. It seemed like she was almost at the level of a pre-celestial expert. One had to know that Yi Tianlei had spent so much effort to break through to the pre-celestial realm, but Li Xiaotian had clearly reached the pre-celestial realm in his teens. What did this mean? This meant that Li Xiaotian was a monstrous existence, even more terrifying than the martial doe from back then. Tang Zheng had always thought that he was considered a monster, but he didn't expect that Li Xiaotian was the one who hid her strength. Moreover, it was obvious that she could hide her strength on the train and in the Long family. However, he did not consider how long he had been cultivating. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, had been cultivating since he was young. Therefore, Li Xiaotian's cultivation speed was truly monstrous. This time, Li Xiaotian was clearly trapped by several monsters and had no choice but to display his full strength. In short, this holy maiden of Li Palace was not simple. Not only was she skilled, the key point was that she was capricious and cunning. Tang Zheng was not prepared to show herself. If these demonic beasts could kill her, it would naturally be a good thing. However, these demonic beasts obviously did not let Tang Zheng do as she wished. A moment later, all the demonic beasts fell to the ground dead. Li Xiaotian clapped her white palms and muttered to herself, "How troublesome! There are actually so many annoying fellows." Before she finished speaking, she had already jumped out and rushed towards the prehistoric heavenly tomb. Without the Yin general's defense, she entered an uninhabited land and in an instant, her figure disappeared into the forest of tombstones. Tang Zheng appeared and looked at the corpses of the demonic beasts. He quickly walked over and with a few slashes, he cut open the demonic beasts' stomachs and took out the demonic beasts' inner cores. This was a good thing. Other than this forbidden area, it was very difficult to obtain it outside. Of course, Tang Zheng would not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After placing the demonic beast's inner cores into the Sumeru bag, he rode his heaven horse into the prehistoric heavenly tomb. Buzz buzz! The war soul sword suddenly trembled. Tang Zheng's heart moved. He knew that it must have been stimulated by the dense yin qi here, so he channeled his power, causing a whirlpool to suddenly appear on the war soul sword, and the yin qi between heaven and earth was quickly sucked into the whirlpool. The war soul sword glowed with a black light, like a thirsty person, crazily absorbing the yin qi. However, Tang Zheng still controlled his movements. If not, he would be discovered by the two groups of people in front of him. He would be in trouble. Suddenly, the sound of an intense battle came from the front. Tang Zheng saw Li Xiaotian stop in her tracks from afar and look towards the direction of the battle. She seemed to hesitate for a moment, but did not walk towards the direction of the battle. Why is she so indifferent to the sounds of fighting? Could it be that she has some other secret? Tang Zheng was puzzled. The sounds of fighting were obviously caused by the Japanese. Tang Zheng really wanted to go and investigate, but it was obvious that Li Xiaotian had an even bigger secret, so he decided to follow her. Li Xiaotian's speed was very fast. After a while, she actually arrived in front of a dark house. There was actually another house in the cemetery, which was very strange. This house was not big, and it was as black as ink. Even the walls were black, and the door was so black that it seemed to be able to absorb all the light around it. The moonlight in the sky shone on the house. The moonlight contrasted with the blackness, making it look even more strange and creepy. Li Xiaotian pushed with both hands, and the sound of the door turning was especially ear-piercing in the silent cemetery as the door slowly opened. It was unknown what material this door was made of, but it seemed very heavy. The moment the door opened, a gust of wind swept out with a large amount of yin qi. Li Xiaotian immediately retreated, dodging the dense yin qi. The war soul sword trembled non-stop, as if it wanted to absorb the yin qi. However, It was too far away, so it could only sigh helplessly. Whiz! The Yin-Chi dissipated, and Li Xiaoyan's figure disappeared into the door in a flash. Tang Zheng's line of sight was blocked. He did not know what was going on inside, and could not help but hesitate. No, I have to find out what she wants to do. Tang Zheng hid the heaven horse and Xiaobai behind a huge stone tablet, then leaped to the door, just in time to see Feng Shishir walking to the center of the room. There was only one empty hall in this room, and it was also pitch black. What was strange was that there were 3 huge coffins in this room, causing people to shudder. It was unknown what material this coffin was made of, but after so many years, it was still intact. It was unknown if there was a corpse or something else inside the coffin. But immediately, Tang Zheng's gaze was attracted by something else. A large bow was hanging on the wall above the coffin, and Li Xiaoyan was also staring at the bow. He was obviously very excited as he muttered to himself, "Heaven-shocking bow. I actually found the heaven-shocking bow." When Tang Zheng heard this from outside the door, he could not help but be puzzled. What kind of bow was this, to actually be able to make this black-bellied Li Xiaoyan so excited? Whiz! Li Xiaoyan leaped towards the heaven-shocking bow. Just at this time, the 3 coffins moved, and the coffin lids flew up, blocking Li Xiaoyan's path. Li Xiaoyan turned pale with fright, but he did not panic. With a tap of his foot on the coffin lid, he retreated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 cold lights rushed forward, grabbing towards Li Xiaoyan's cheeks. Li Xiaoyan retracted his head and dodged the attack, but a strand of hair on his forehead was cut off and floated down. When she landed on the ground, there were already 3 sinister and terrifying fellows in front of her. These 3 had the appearance of a human, but they were filled with a deathly aura, especially the faint light in their eyes. In addition, their fingernails were very long, like sharp blades. The 3 cold glints just now were the shadows of their attacks. There are actually zombies guarding the heaven-shocking bow, Li Xiaoyan said coldly. He grabbed with his big hand and attacked one of them. Puff! Her slender white fingers actually pierced straight into the zombie's chest, but she was forced to stop, unable to advance even an inch. Whiz! The zombie acted as if it did not feel anything, its sharp nails directly grabbing towards Li Xiaoyan's face. Li Xiaoyan turned pale with fright and immediately retreated, but behind her, another zombie blocked her path. Poochie! The clothes on her back were torn apart, revealing a set of white clothes. When the zombie's fingernails scratched her clothes, dazzling sparks actually blossomed. Heavenly silkworm treasure armor. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted as he stared fixedly at the white robe. Such sharp nails were actually unable to harm her in the slightest. This heavenly silkworm treasure armor was simply too powerful. Li Xiaoyan was in a sorry state under the siege of the 3 zombies. These 3 zombies were not comparable to those demonic beasts. They were exceptionally strong. Li Xiaoyan's body had already been scratched countless times by the sharp nails, causing his clothes to become ragged, completely exposing the heavenly silkworm treasure armor, especially his towering chest, which was especially eye-catching. She was furious. These damn zombies were definitely perverts when they were alive. If not for the fact that she was wearing the heavenly silkworm treasure armor, wouldn't she have been exposed? In fact, zombies were all dead creatures without any consciousness. They attacked indiscriminately and only wanted to kill their enemies. Of course, they would not consider whether they were perverts or not. Li Xiaoyan tenderly shouted, and her attack also became fierce. Poochie! Her hand chopped at the neck of a zombie. So, a huge head directly flew up. The zombie fell to the ground with a loud bang. But the other 2 zombies did not seem to see their companion at all. Their attacks were still extremely fierce and dangerous. "I'm going to kill all of you. You dare to stop me from obtaining the heaven-shocking bow? All of you, die for this beauty." Li Xiaoyan scolded angrily. Tang Zheng watched the battle intently. Obviously, Li Xiaoyan's strength was slightly better than hers, so the heaven-shocking bow would definitely fall into her hands. "You've tricked me so many times, I definitely can't let you succeed. This heaven-shocking bow is mine," Tang Zheng said quietly, and in a flash, he rushed into the house. All of a sudden, the 3 sides of the fierce battle did not notice Tang Zheng. the uninvited guest, and Tang Zheng used the shrinking ground into an inch technique to quickly close the distance between him and the heaven-shocking bow. Finally, when he arrived at the bottom of the heaven-shocking bow, the three sides that were just inches away finally saw Tang Zheng. At that moment, Tang Zheng had already used a piece of clothing to cover his face, and for a moment, Li Xiaotian did not recognize him. Whiz! Tang Zheng tapped on the coffin with the tip of his foot and soared into the sky. Amidst a few shocked roars, Tang Zheng had already grabbed onto the heaven-shocking bow. Li Xiaotian's eyes were bloodshot. She never thought that there would be someone who dared to take advantage of the situation to steal her treasure, and could not help but shout angrily, "Put down the heaven-shocking bow!" Her figure flashed, wanting to attack Tang Zheng, but two sharp sounds of wind came from behind her. The two zombies had already treated her as their mortal enemy. Li Xiaotian was flustered and exasperated. "Damn it! You guys should go and stop him. The heaven-shocking bow is about to be stolen by him." As if her reminder had worked, a zombie abandoned her and grabbed towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng flew up and kicked the zombie's arm, then used the rebound force to fly over their heads. Chapter 246. Seeing Tang Zheng flying over his head, Li Xiaotian flew into a rage. "Stay here." He pushed the zombie away with his palm, then soared into the air and grabbed onto the heaven-shocking bow. Of course, Tang Zheng would not let go. With a pull, Li Xiaotian was pulled in front of him. When their eyes met, Li Xiaotian felt that this pair of eyes was somewhat familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen them before. But this was not the key point. She was already extremely angry and shouted, "Give it to me!" vigorously snatching the heaven-shocking bow. How could Tang Zheng let go? In fact, he was more worried that she would tear off the cloth on his face, so he pushed out with his palm, wanting to shake the other party off. However, he did not expect that his hand would directly push onto the towering chest. The soft feeling made Tang Zheng suddenly realize what he had done. Li Xiaotian's entire body stiffened, his face flushed red to his neck, and he actually subconsciously let go of the heaven-shocking bow and slapped him. Rogue! Tang Zheng was lucky enough to hit the mark. Seeing that she had let go, he anxiously flew back, landed at the door, and quickly disappeared into the night. Li Xiaotian roared unwillingly. "Stop right there. Rogue, return the heaven-shocking bow to me. I will skin you alive and pull out your tendons." He chased after him and disappeared through the door. The two zombies also rushed to the door, but stopped in their tracks. They could only roar in the direction where the two of them had disappeared. They seemed to be unable to leave the house, and could only watch as the two of them escaped. Tang Zheng rode on the heaven horse and whipped it, running wildly without stopping. The heaven-shocking bow had long been kept in the sumeru bag, and he could vaguely hear Li Xiaotian's angry roars coming from behind him. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he muttered to himself, "Li Xiaotian, I told you to trick me. This is retribution." He didn't know how far he had run, but suddenly, the sound of fighting came from the front. These Japanese bastards still haven't finished fighting. Could it be that we've met a top expert this time? Tang Zheng guessed. Then, he slowed down and quietly approached. In front of a huge circular tomb, an intense battle was taking place. Out of the 4 Japanese, only 2 were left, Yamamoto and the other one, while the other 2 had already died in a pool of blood. The ones fighting the Japanese were not humans, but demonic beasts. There were a few demonic beast corpses on the ground, and one of the 2 demonic beasts that were fighting the Japanese was the Kuei cow that had escaped. The other demonic beast was completely different from the other demonic beasts. Its appearance was actually not much different from a human's, except that it had a single horn on its forehead, which made it look particularly awkward. Its entire body was covered in red scales, and it was impregnable. The katana did not leave a single mark on its body, and when it punched out, a tombstone was smashed into pieces. What kind of demonic beast is this? To think that he has already taken human form. Tang Zheng was extremely curious. He knew that after all living things turned into demons, as long as they reached a certain realm, they would be able to take human form. This demonic beast had a horn on its forehead, which meant that it had not completely transformed into a human. However, its current appearance was enough to show that it was extremely powerful. Tang Zheng did not dare to be careless. He wanted to hide far away to watch the battle, but just as he was about to leave, he heard a strong gust of wind behind him. Crap, Li Xiaotian had caught up. She must have been attracted by the sounds of fighting. Tang Zheng was only focused on watching the show and forgot about this annoying dog skin plaster. Tang Zheng pulled on the reins, and the heaven horse jumped to the side, barely dodging Li Xiaotian's attack. However, he was completely exposed in front of everyone. When Yamamoto saw Tang Zheng, he flew into a rage. "Brat, it's actually you. You caused the death of my teammates. I will kill you." The other Japanese immediately brandished his katana and attacked Tang Zheng. Before Tang Zheng could even react, Xiaobai had already opened his mouth and spat out a stream of flames. The Japanese immediately turned into a fireball and let out a heart-wrenching scream. The little guy had been holding back against this group of Japanese for too long. Now, he could finally attack them without any restraint. Even Yamamoto looked at Xiaobai in shock. This little animal that looked like a puppy could actually spit fire. Only now did Yamamoto understand that he had really made a mistake and had been tricked to death by the other party's act of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Now that all of his teammates were dead, he was the only one left. Of course, when some people were angry, there were people who were happy. When Tang Zheng appeared, the two demonic beasts' gazes focused on him, and the Kuei cow immediately shouted excitedly, "Lord Demon Commander, it's them. The one standing on his shoulder is the holy beast we are looking for." That humanoid demonic beast was actually a demon commander. It stared straight at Tang Zheng and Xiaobai and said, "You actually delivered yourself to me, then I won't have to personally look for you." When Yamamoto heard these words, he looked at Tang Zheng and Xiaobai in shock. Just who was this person, and why did he have a grudge with the demonic beasts in prehistoric heavenly tomb? Even Li Xiaotian, who had caught up, was extremely surprised. He opened his eyes wide, as if he wanted to see through him, and said sternly, "Hurry up and return my heaven-shocking bow to me." Tang Zheng chuckled. "Who said it was yours?" "I was the one who got it first." Li Xiaotian was flustered and exasperated. "If it wasn't for me restraining the zombie, how could you have succeeded? Where exactly are you hiding? Hurry up and take it out." Tang Zheng said with ill intentions, "How can I give you my things? You're too shameless. It's clearly mine, okay? You guys actually stole the heaven-shocking bow. How dare you? The heaven-shocking bow is an item from the prehistoric heavenly tomb. No one can take it away." The demon commander said. Li Xiaotian glanced at the demon commander and said, "I was the one who found the heaven-shocking bow, so it's mine. What prehistoric heavenly tomb's item? What nonsense." Demon commander flew into a rage. "You still dare to speak such arrogant words? Kuei cow, let's snatch the holy beast first and then revive the beast king. Then, Lord Beast King will be the master of this prehistoric heavenly tomb." Revive the Beast King? Tang Zheng and Yamamoto turned pale with fright. The Beast King has been dead for who knows how many years. How can it be revived? Demon Commander said disdainfully, "Lord Beast King's divine power is unparalleled. It is not something you can imagine. As long as you have the blood of a holy beast, you can revive the Beast King. We have been waiting for this day for countless years. The heavens have eyes. The holy beast has descended. The Beast King can finally be revived." Tang Zheng was shocked. So the reason why they had mobilized so many people to snatch Xiaobai was to revive the Beast King. In that case, Xiaobai's miraculous abilities were far beyond his imagination. Xiaobai looked at all of this blankly, completely ignoring all of the blazing gazes. Yamamoto had already made up his mind to snatch Xiaobai away. Even Li Xiaotian, who was only concerned about the heaven-shocking bow, couldn't help but look at Xiaobai a few more times. Was this little guy really as powerful as the other party said? He could bring people back from the dead? Actually, it was a coincidence that Li Xiaotian came to the Forbidden Grounds. The Li Palace collected all the information in the world, but she did not know anything about the Forbidden Grounds. She only found out by chance from an ancient piece of information that there was a peerless divine bow in this place. Heaven-shocking bow. Legend has it that the heaven-shocking bow was the weapon of a very powerful person in ancient times. With a bow in hand, it could shake the heavens and earth. Li Xiaotian had heard of the legend of this great figure before and was very interested in the heaven-shocking bow. More importantly, the heaven-shocking bow was not a magic treasure, but a weapon that could be used by warriors. This was the reason why she had come all the way to the southern Yunnan. This was also her first mission as the Holy Maiden of Li Palace. After expending a lot of effort, he had finally arrived at this vast 10,000 huge mountains. Furthermore, he had even barged into this prehistoric heavenly tomb. The heaven-shocking bow was within reach, but he was robbed by this Chen Yaojin who had appeared out of nowhere. Li Xiaotian had never been wronged like this since he was young. It was truly too aggrieving. In addition, she was also filled with curiosity towards this prehistoric heavenly tomb. Li Palace had always considered itself rich in information, but there was actually no news about this prehistoric heavenly tomb. She felt that it was too inconceivable, and when she returned, she had to do her best to investigate when this prehistoric heavenly tomb was created and what kind of miraculous origins it had. But that was a matter for the future. Right now, she had to snatch the heaven-shocking bow back, so she said bluntly, "I don't care what grudges you have, I just want my heaven-shocking bow. Quickly return it to me." Tang Zheng did not care about them. He only stared at them warily. Without a doubt, he had become the target of public criticism, and everyone wanted to deal with him. He could not help but laugh bitterly. He had originally planned to hide at the back and pick up the scraps, but now he was pushed to the front of the stage. Furthermore, he was the one with the lower cultivation here, so the situation was not optimistic. The demon commander could not wait any longer. With a loud roar, he directly attacked Tang Zheng. "Give me the holy beast." Tang Zheng's expression did not change as he said, "Xiao Bai, hold on tight, don't fall." Xiao Bai seemed to have felt his nervousness as he nodded his head seriously. He hugged Tang Zheng's head tightly and stared at the demon commander who was rushing towards him. Boom! With a mouthful of flames, Xiao Bai made the first move. The demon commander had obviously expected this and soared into the air like lightning, dodging the attack. Furthermore, he punched down, straight towards Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng immediately retreated and hid behind Li Xiaotian. The demon commander was even stronger than Yamamoto, so of course he was not a match for the demon commander, and Li Xiaotian became the best shield. "Didn't you want the heaven-shocking bow? Help me block him first. Otherwise, if I die, no one will tell you where the heaven-shocking bow is." Tang Zheng laughed sinisterly. Li Xiaotian was stunned and scolded. "You're too despicable. I learned it from you." Li Xiaotian did not have the chance to figure out the meaning behind these words. Because the demon commander's attack was already in front of her, she had no choice but to make a move. She turned her head and glared at Tang Zheng and said, "If I help you, will you give me the heaven-shocking bow?" Tang Zheng said seriously, "If you help me, I'll tell you where the heaven-shocking bow is." "All right, it's a deal." Seeing Li Xiaotian rushing out, Tang Zheng could not help but secretly rejoice. This woman looked black-bellied, but she was actually a little stupid and did not understand the meaning behind his words. Tang Zheng only said that he would tell her where the heaven-shocking bow was, but he did not say that he would give it to her. But this was also good. She had tricked him in the past, so he would also trick her once. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.